Okay, welcome everybody, and perfect timing, to this special general committee meeting of November 11th at 1 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order at exactly 1:01 p.m. And with that, I would like Councillor Cloutier, if you wouldn't mind reading the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you. I would respectfully acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much for that. I do have a motion. It has been moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. It is recommended that the General Committee meeting agenda dated Monday, November 11th, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Seeing none, carried. Seeing none. Oh, a little spaced out today. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Now I can say, seeing none. I can move it right along. And with that, I would like to turn over the chair to Councillor Morrison, please.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. I'm going to pass this over to Julia and Suzanne in just a second, but as you know, we have our budget being presented today, our two-year budget being presented today. And for anyone listening at home or here in the audience, just want to highlight a few things. The process this year was a little bit different. It's always exciting to do budget, but it was even more exciting this year. We involved some council members from the very beginning. We had a lot of meetings, tons of meetings with SLT and management. We had a lot of stuff on the chopping block. I need to commend our staff for cutting a lot of things that would have been nice to haves, but not nice to, or not needs that we need in the budget this year. The amount of hours that I got in from SLT management and Mayor Alcock, Helena, and myself, it was good. We did a lot, and our clerks and our CAO and everyone else, right? So, and Deputy Mayor Armour was involved in that as well. So I'd like to just thank everyone involved in the process, because I think because of the process this year, I have a way better understanding of where we're at and how we got there. And I'd really like to commend Suzanne and Julia for all the work that you guys have done. So I'm going to pass it over to Director McKenzie, and I believe I need to read the suspension of rules first, right? I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Clark. It is recommended that committee suspend the rules of procedure related to speaking limits for the consideration of Report Corp 2024-56 and 24-56 and 25-26 draft budget consolidated. And further that all rules of procedure will be reinstated once the agenda item has been completed. With that, I'll pass it over to you guys. Thank you. I'd like to call the question on that motion. Any questions? No? All in favor? Dan's hesitant. There's you. And with that, I can really pass it over to you guys.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, Mayor, and committee members. Today we're here to present the draft 2025 and 2026 draft consolidated budget. And before we get started, I was going to actually ask if our CAO could just say a couple of words. Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, and then I have a quick motion to read as well.
Thank you very much, Chair Morrison. So just wanted to take the opportunity, as Chair Morrison indicated, it's been quite a interesting process and very, very positive. And from my perspective, working with members of council, trying to bring forward a budget for consideration for all of council. It's not an easy task to undertake, working on a budget that recognizes the financial constraints that many of our residents have in the community, and yet knowing how important the services are. So I think working together as a team has certainly brought us to a point where we can deliver a two-year budget, first time we have ever done this. And also wanted to thank staff, because I really pressed hard for them to meet some really tight deadlines, and they did it, and they did an absolutely amazing job. So we're looking forward to the conversation today and the feedback from council, and look forward to passing our two-year budget. So thank you.
Thank you, CAO Corey. And with that, I just have to read a motion regarding the budget. And it is moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour, whereas the Municipal Act 2001, Section 2911 authorizes a municipality to prepare and adopt a budget covering a period of 2 to 5 years. And whereas staff were directed to prepare the draft 2025-2026 town consolidated budget with the next tax rate increase of 4.99% over the prior year in accordance with the budget and financial controls policy for 2025 and 4.99% over the prior year for 2026. And therefore, it is recommended that committee approves the following Town of Huntsville draft consolidated budgets as attached to Report Corp 2024-56. 2025 with a total levy of $23,649,401. And 2026 with a total levy of $25,320,722. And further that the 2026 budget be reviewed prior to the end of 2025 and considered for readoption. Any questions or comments on that motion? All in favor? Okay. And now you can really. Oh, what? Oh, we're not calling the question yet. Is it-
Julia's sitting there going, yes.
So then we can go home now, guys. This is the shortest budget meeting of all time.
It's perfect. Love
That's
it.
how good we are.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, Councillor
So
Morrison.
thank you for catching that. It's been a while. We'll come back to that. There you go. Yeah. There you go. I would love it if you guys could take over now. Yeah.
Agenda go up? Oh, there we go. I don't know how to do this. Okay, so thank you. So this meeting has been scheduled for 2 days, starting today and continuing tomorrow, to allow time for committee to review the draft budget, to seek any additional information from staff, and make any recommendations to staff on the draft budget for either 25 or 26. So we do have an agenda here. We'll go through the budget process, what are acceptable levy ranges, an overview of the draft consolidated budget, just an overview of SWB, which is their salaries, wages, and benefits. Just a quick recap on the community and user group requests, an overview of capital, and then some new capital requests that staff have brought forward.
So the process for the 2025 and 2026 budget began in the summer of 2024, with staff first reviewing capital and considering new staffing resources and reaching out to the communities to seek input on requests for new services. In September, a budget survey was issued for the month of September to get public input to inform the budget process. More information we'll touch on the budget survey later on in the presentation. The guidelines were brought forward to committee in September with the tax rate increase range of 2.7 to 5.4%, and committee revised the upper limit to 4.99% for both years. This brings us to where we are today to review and discuss the consolidated draft operating and capital budgets.
So this is the first year of the town's multi-year budget, and staff are really excited to bring forward this budget for both the 25 and 26 year. The Municipal Act does allow for multi-year budgets, I believe up to 5 years, to be created, but it does still require council review at the end of each year. So this does provide an opportunity to communicate if a change is needed. So some other benefits for multi-year is it provides residents with a clear outlook on and greater certainty on future tax rates. It aligns goals with strategic and funding plans, and also can potentially reduce deliberation time. So we have had a lot of questions, and I think Councillor Morrison just alluded to it. What if concerns raised about having a multi-year budget, and what happens if something changes? So every year when we prepare a budget and we pass the budget, there's always changes that occur. And that's handled through the budget and financial controls policy, where either we get guidance from staff and council on how to report and contemplate these changes. So if there is a deviation, that would be approved by council, and then that would be included in our forecast. So there should be little difference in having a 2-year budget. There may be things like changed legislation, new council directions, or changes in economic conditions. And if budgets are required, this would be done by approval of deviations, or also done through review of the 2026 budget. It is expected that having a multi-year budget will be a less intensive process in the second year of the budget, maybe not so much in the first year or the first every year. But this chart just demonstrates some of the expected milestones and timelines that we would expect to have in 2026. So right now we are presenting the budget in December. There is a tentative meeting set if we do need more time for adoption for the budget. And again, if further meetings are required, then we will certainly set them up.
So for the budget survey, the survey was released in September and then the intention of the survey was to inform council and staff during the budget process. In looking at the statistics, we need to consider that it's 186 responses from our community, and it does not create a statistical sample. However, the budget responses appear to be a well-balanced representation from the community. So just to highlight some of the responses that we did get from the survey, more than half of the respondents felt there was good value for the taxes they pay. The majority indicated that they were satisfied overall with the delivery of services by the town, and slightly more than half, more than half had the point of view that they would rather see taxes maintained or reduced, even if it meant reducing some service levels. The survey provided these top 5 priorities from the strategic plan. It's important to note this budget does address these priorities. So the first one supported improved access to healthcare and professionals, so doctor recruitment and other healthcare initiatives in the MAT budget. Improved roadways. There's increases to the amounts of spending in roads on roads and infrastructure. Safeguard and enhance natural features. Shared services with Lake of Bays for climate change coordinator. Financial sustainability continues to build on reducing the infrastructure gap as well as maintain reasonable property tax rates and meet housing needs. Affordable housing initiative is included in the MAP budget. Through the budget survey, the fire and emergency services area was the only area where 73% of the respondents agreed they would pay more to maintain the service. And you'll see later in the presentation that this is an area that has a significant increase year over year to address this point. A majority of the respondents would pay more to maintain these services.
Sorry, something.
Sorry, having a little delay on the slides here. So the next area we wanted to point out is the only service that most respondents, over 50.3% agreed to increase was roads, sidewalks, bridges, and storm systems. And a majority of these respondents would pay more in taxes to increase these services as well as maintain.
So this provides a snapshot of where the tax rate increase is being proposed compared to the lower limit, revised limit, or the cap, and the upper limit set out in the budget and financial controls policy. You can see that both 2025 and the 26 draft budgets being presented today are below both the revised upper limit and the original limit set out in the budget and financial controls policy. It is important to note, so this is just for both years here, just showing the upper and the upper limits and where we're sitting. It is important to note that the capital increase included in the draft budget is based on a 10% increase, which is slightly less than the average increase over the past 5 years, which was sitting around 13%. But the budget working group just felt it was important to maintain this, to maintain an increase in the capital for both 25 and 26 to get to us on a path for sustainable level of funding. It's important also to note that this increase in the capital does not specifically address increases for additional capital that has been added over the year. However, the group has assumed that those increases are included in that overall 10% increase. The draft budget being presented is assuming that there is $100 million worth of new growth for both 25 and 26. And in discussions with MPAC, they are expecting to continue to see similar levels of growth in 25 that they did see in 24. And so far in 24, there's been $106 million in new assessment. The 26 budget is assuming no change in the OMPF funding from 25. And just to note, the OMPF funding for 25 did go up by approximately just by over $100,000, which was currently being directed into the working funds to provide some additional funding for unexpected items over the next couple of years. So just to break it down further, the estimated tax increase for Huntsville for 2025 is 4.84, and that's just for the Huntsville only portion, which is below the guidelines set by council, and this results in a total increase of 1.66 million over the prior year. And then for 26, again, the estimated tax increase would be 4.87, which is again below the guidelines and results in a total increase of 1.67 million over the prior year. This summary shows the overall increase in dollars of the total draft budget. So you'll see in 25, again, there's an increase of 1.66 million. And it is important to note that 40% of that relates to the increase in the capital funding. In 2026, the increase is very similar, 1.67 million, and this represents 46% of that is related to the increase in the capital funding. And again, continuing to increase the capital contributions to get us to a sustainable level of funding for existing capital has been a priority of this council and past councils. So we're pleased to continue this commitment to the infrastructure that does support all the services that the town provides. Just one more thing to note, that the capital increase of 66% relates primarily to roads, storm systems, bridges, and sidewalks, which further just goes along with what we heard in the budget survey, that people would pay more for roads.
So this next slide here shows the impact to the taxpayer, and it's based on an average home assessment value of $300,000. The amounts showing for the District of Muskoka are for general services only. So not all homes in Huntsville have water and sewer. The rates for the district are based on the approved guidelines and have not yet been approved by District Council. Education rates have now been confirmed for 2025, and there is no change from 2024. And we've assumed that it'll be consistent in 2026 as well. The education rates have been consistent since 2020. Overall, this will result in a total tax bill in 2025 of estimated $2,938 in total, and then 2026 will be just over $3,000 at $3,049. And if we go a bit further to break down these amounts, we've taken the increase or the amount that's for the town portion and shown a breakdown of how that's allocated between the different services that residents have. So the increase for Huntsville year over year is $69 for 2025 and $72 for 2026, which equates to approximately $6 per month for a household assessed at $300,000. We've been frequently asked why the typical assessment we're using is $300,000 for a home in Huntsville, which doesn't seem to tie into current market values of homes. Right now, MPAC is using 2016 values to base assessments on. Generally, the assessment cycle is 4 years. However, this was disrupted due to COVID and the rapid change in market prices of housing. The Ontario government sets when the new assessment takes place, and as of today, no communication has come from the province to set the new target dates for the updated assessment.
Huntsville has a shared administrative agreement with fire services with Lake of Bays for over at least a decade now. And over the last couple of years, the town has also entered into shared services agreements with Lake Bays for information technology shared services, and then corporate information or GIS. And then we have also entered into shared services for climate change. Entering into these shared service agreements allows both municipalities to have more specialized staff and available resources while sharing in those costs. The town and Lake of Bays is also looking at moving from the administrative agreement for fire service to a more shared services model. Over the next year, Huntsville and Lake of Bays will be developing this new agreement for council's consideration. And you'll see in the budget that additional revenue to reflect the costs that we're currently providing has been included in the fire budget for both 25 and 26. So in the draft budget for 25 and 26, we do have several positions that have been included. We do have fleet mechanics, so this is fully funded from the levy. And the increase in the mechanic doesn't necessarily mean that we'll completely reduce all of our contracted services, but it will help us get better value out of those dollars because we will be able to do that work in-house. Contracted services and fleet will still need to increase, and you'll see in 2025, but it is less of an increase than we would see if we had not added that extra mechanic. The engineering student is expected to be a student for part of the summer for 2025 only, and staff will seek grants for this position, although it has been included as funded from the levy at this time. It's expected that this position will be replaced the following year with a full-time engineering technician, which you'll see two down. The library marketing coordinator position is for a part-time for half of 2025 and for all of 2026, and there will be further information that's coming later on in the presentation about that. And then we also have our chief training officer in fire. We've included a total of $50,000 as the Huntsville only expense. If this position, or when we work with Lake of Bays to work through this process with the shared service agreement, then we'll be adding the additional revenue and the additional expense. But as a placeholder, we've now added $50,000 in 25. The health and safety specialist is a full-time position that's expected to begin in 2025. And then the last is the IT technician, and this will be partially recovered through Lake of Bays through the shared services agreement. And it's a result of increased activity. And this will ensure that there's adequate IT resources and support available, especially as we're becoming more technologically advanced and ensuring that we've got the safety and security over our services. So now we'll just talk quickly about the community and user group requests. So this was a process that was done earlier in the year and already approved by committee. So the first is a muscle outdoor fitness project, and this includes $134,000 for rubberized surface. There was another option that was presented, which was the $97,000 for the non-rubberized surface. However, we have put it in at the full rate. This is being proposed to be funded through Parkland and Lieu funding and donations. The walking tour project is with Huntsville and Area Historical Society and is for ongoing funded for the tour app and is funded through the MAT. Pickleball dividers will be donated entirely by the pickleball group, and the pickleball line removal at Meadow Park will be addressed through the park's operating budget in 25. The batting cages is scheduled to be done in 2026, and we do have one change to note since we did have the original report, and it was presented at $6,500 for the equipment. It was budgeted at $8,000, but there is additional cost because of the cost of the fencing since we've gone back and gotten quotes on that. So it is expected that the price of that will increase. And we also wanted to note that all of the additional salary time that was included in that report has been included in the draft budget.
So now we'll take a look at the capital part of the presentation. We wanted to do a little bit of a refreshment. So we have here the total replacement cost of all of the town's assets is about $315 million. This includes all the assets in our inventory at this time. So we take the total replacement cost of the existing town capital assets and divide it by the estimated useful life of the assets, and that gets us our recommended average annual capital contribution. So it's 19.5 million. So when we talk about our capital projects, these are the capital expenses, so the items that we're actually going to be planning to replace in the coming years. And our capital contribution plan is the capital levy, or that 19.5, that's the recommended goal. Another way to think of it is the capital contributions are the amount that we put in every year, and they go into our capital reserves as a savings, and then the capital projects come out as expenses. The capital projects, if they are removed from the budget, they won't have a direct impact on the tax rate because they're coming from the reserves for the most part. So they won't really impact the tax rate. So if we look at our 2024 recommended annual contribution of 19.5 million, our 2024 contributions were 6.9 million. So that gives us our funding gap of 12.6 million.
So as noted before, the budget increase for 25 and 26 is 10% and is slightly lower, as noted, but than the average 5-year increase. It is important to note that the town is required in 2025 to bring back a revised funding strategy in accordance with OREG 58817, which is the Municipal Asset Management OREG. And so we'll be bringing back funding strategies for consideration for council for future budgets. It's also important to note that the town recently completed the roads needs study, which may impact some replacement value in the roads inventory as well, which I think will have a significant impact on our inventory, is the appraisal and building condition assessments that is currently being completed on the town's buildings will result in a significant increase in the capital cost of those inventory items. So again, just to recap, increasing the value of the inventory will increase that green bar. I was going to try and hit that, it's too hard. As the recommended contributions are based on the value of the asset over the life of that asset. So it is likely that the contributions will be recommended to increase even further in subsequent budgets. So we just wanted to touch base quickly on this. There's because we have had some significant large projects that have been being talked about. Options for several large facility projects are being considered from a town-wide strategic perspective. And these include the Operations Center, or the Medill building, new fire station, and expansion of library space. So these projects are not included in the 2025-26 budget until the options can be refined and a fulsome plan can be presented. As these projects are not currently being funded, it is expected that debentures would be required to undertake these projects, and any resulting interest and principal payments would need to be added into future budgets. We also wanted to note that the assessment study for the library is included, or sorry, the needs assessment study for the library is included in the draft 2025 budget.
This slide shows an overview of the capital projects by divisions that are planned for 2025 and 2026. Both operations, roads, parks, cemeteries, and community services facilities have significantly high projects slotted for 2025 over 2026. Moving these projects between the 2 years will not result in a direct decrease to the levy or expected tax rate increase, but will rather impact the reserve balances at the end of 2025. You will also note that in the 2025 and 2026 budget report, the individual values of roads projects have been removed and instead summarized as type of work, so base stabilization, high float, etc. And this is an attempt to give a competitive advantage to our procurement process. So the first division we'll look at is corporate management. So there's one project planned for 2025. It's the Highway 60 West sign. It's been damaged, so staff are still determining if it can be done in 2024, but for right now we have it in for 2025. If it can be done in 24, we'll remove it from 25.
So for the library, we have an accessibility ramp, and this is a new request and is will be talked about later on in the presentation. The carpet replacement is for library carpet repairs. Materials relates to library books and replacement. Audio visual is the library audio visual material replacements. IT capital is the regular replacement of the capital IT items at the library. The surveillance and cameras is a carryover, I'm sure you remember, from 2024, which is expected to be done in 25 with the Towns project. And the balance of these items are regular replacement of different types of library materials. So for the operations division, we have included a third year to add to the priority list to allow the director the flexibility to add additional projects depending on the budget and the contract pricing. So if there are extra funds available, the director of operations has the ability to move on to the next roads that have been prioritized in the budget. So with the roads needs study, staff are not expecting, or with the new roads needs study, staff are not expecting the list or the process to change because staff were heavily involved in that whole process. So we're not going to get the new roads needs study and we're going to throw this out. There's no surprises. It's all been incorporated. Just to note, any 2024 carry forward projects for roads that are known before we actually pass the budget may be noted for council's consideration when we do bring forward the final budget, just because there may be some that just shift between the years. So if we can catch those, we'll do that.
So we've added in some explanations of the different type of roads capital project activities, starting with this slide. So base stabilization high float. This work involves pulverizing the existing surface, followed by the application of 3-inch granular A and then 2 layers of surface treatment. It's also known as tar and chip. This slide here shows the different projects that are planned for the base stabilization and high float. So you'll notice at the top for 2025, there's $2,009,500 planned for those 3 projects. So Old Muskoka Road, Port Sydney Community Center parking lot, and South Wasiusa Lake Road. So this is what we were talking about a few slides ago, how we don't have the individual projects costed out. They're just built into that total.
Next, we have road reconstruction, which is broken into 2 different types of projects. There's road reconstruction design, which includes the design phase of the project, and then road reconstruction is the complete rehabilitation of road from base to surface. Also includes replacement of all storm sewer networks and water and sewer should the District of Muskoka require replacement. So here are the roads, road construction design and road reconstruction projects planned for the next few years. Design projects are planned to cost $315,000 in 2025 and $75,000 in 26. Whereas the road reconstruction projects that planned are at $1 million in 2025 and $2.4 million in 2026. So I should ask, do we want to allow for any questions if they pop up during this? Or
Like I say, we could take a break after each division, or if anybody does have a question, you can raise your hand and we can pause at any point in case it's a pressing question from that actual slide. But does anybody have any questions currently so far? Or do you want to wait until the end of the division? Councilor Cloutier?
Through you, Chair. I just want to go back to the shared services with Lake of Bays. On the IT jobs and the other one, what's the percentage do we pay? Is it 50-50 or is it how's the percentages on shared services broke down?
That's a great question. So for the proposed fire shared services, we actually have a 50-50 split in there for the salary portion and also some fleet and administrative overhead. They're all a little bit different. For IT, it's about 20% is paid by Lake of Bays. The committee or the climate change coordinator is it's 50-50. And then the GIS position is around 50-50 as well.
All right, we'll continue along, and then if, oh, Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just a quick question. On your little toy trucks you have on the road department here, are they depicting something or are they just something you, like, you have a cement truck, you have a bulldozer, you have, do they mean anything at all or just you stuck them in there? All right. So I just want to make sure that the audience is clear. That doesn't mean you're getting a road with cement on it. Okay.
Good clarification. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just a quick question about the roads capital project. So the Chaffee Township Road reconstruction and design. So as part of that, are we going to be considering, like, is sidewalks and all that kind of stuff going to be part of that? Just wondering if maybe Director Bissonnette could answer that.
Director Bissonnette, speak to that.
Through you, Chair Morrison. Yes, sidewalks are included in that.
That's great news. Mayor Alcock.
Thank you very much, Chair Morrison. Just to follow up on that question, so I'm assuming because it is all-inclusive, that's why the design is really significant and will be in 25, and we wait until 26 for the project to actually take place. Because those are both really high priorities, Chaffee and Grandview. So
Let's bring Brandon Hall down to speak to this. For 2 seconds, yeah, please. Start the clock. You're already done.
Sorry.
You can take Director Frame's microphone.
Yeah. Through you, Chair Morrison. So what we like to do is the design in 1 year and then the construction in the next year. We're finding it's very difficult to do a design in the spring and get it done before winter hits, depending if it's, 4 months of the project. The other thing I want to point out is in addition to Director Bissonnette's with the sidewalks, it's in our internal regime to take all of the studies that we have. We have a sidewalk master plan that we have to follow. It does identify a sidewalk on Chaffee Township Road. So we do take all those studies into play when we do the design. So when we go out for an RFP, we get a consultant, we hand them the package of what we need. They do their draft design incorporating all that. So hopefully that's just good for clarity.
That's great. Thank you, Brandon. Okay. All right, so keep the questions coming. We're going to get on to continuing on with the budget presentation, then we'll ask more questions in a bit.
So in looking at in bridge work, this includes any work on bridges, including, work as generally as a result of the OSIM inspection, which is the Ontario Structure Inspection Manual. This includes rehabilitation and reconstruction. So you'll see there's about 1.3 million in 2025, 1 million in 26, and about 400,000 in 27. Please just stop us if you have any questions.
We do have a hand. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. This is just going back to the roads project. So the Kitchen Road South is on there, and I just wondered, I think we did a piece of that, did we not? I'm just wondering if maybe Brandon Hall could just say why it's still on here and what we would be doing there.
Through you, Chair Morrison. The measures that was just done on Kitchen Road South, there was a report to this council before that directed to do a temporary measure in time for us to do the reconstruction. So that request was approved through council. So we did do the interim works right now. So what we're looking at in 2025 is the design of that road, which again includes sidewalks and everything else that we need to look at and for the construction in 2026. So it was identified in the staff report that the interim measures that we were doing was to last about 1 to 2 years. So that's why you see it on this list.
Thank you, Brandon. Councillor Renwick?
Through you, just a quick question about Center Street North then. Is it also from Main Street to West, which would include the bridge, but we're not obviously doing the bridge? But it is the section from Main Street to the bridge, and then I'm guessing from the bridge to West Street. Brandon?
Brandon, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Morrison. So there's a few projects that you're going to see happening for Center Street North. They are all in between Main Street and West. So we have to strategically place this where we're looking at a crosswalk that was identified at Hunters Bay Trail. You'll see that in your budget report as Julie and her team get to that soon. There's also the design for the reconstruction of Center Street and urbanization of that from Main Street to West. It's also been identified in our OSIM structural inspections that we need to do some work on Center Street Bridge within the next couple of years. So you're going to see that's on there as well. So design for those, and then the reconstruction will hopefully take place either in the same year or a year after. But that's what it's there.
Thank you for that. Anything else at the moment? Okay, so we'll continue on.
Okay, so the next one we have here is brushing. So brushing removes excess foliage and trees from the sight lines for safety and to prepare for future road work. This list shows that just over $100,000 is planned for 2025, $100,000 in 2026, and $25,000 planned in 2027 at the moment. I don't see any questions. We'll move along.
Ditching and culverts includes cleaning out and improving roadside ditches in preparation for future roadworks. Entrance culverts will be replaced at the same time if required, and this also includes large culverts that have failed over the winter months. So again, here's a list of the projects for 25, 26, and 27. And you'll see approximate 400,000 in 25, 300,000 in 26, and another 400 in 27.
The next section we have here is micro resurfacing. So this is a thin layer of polymer modified asphalt emulsion to coat the roads and to add durability and increase lifespan to the roads. Micro resurfacing is a process that was identified in the roads needs study as a necessity to ensure that our asphalt roads make it to the end of their lifespan. We will be identifying roads going forward for this process once we implement the results of the roads needs study into our capital plan. We might not need to do this process every year. So we just have the some carried forward projects from the District of Muskoka contract pricing. Here, there's about 280,000 identified for 2025.
Pause. Any questions on the last few slides? Okay, seem to be good.
That was a new term, so I thought there might be some questions. The next is pulverized paved stormwork. So this is includes rehabilitation of roads, including storm drainage, water and sewer, followed by repaving. And again, here's a list with the projects for all 3 years. The first is a bit lower at 677,000 with 4 roads identified. And then in next year, 764, and in 27, there was over $1 million. So slurry seals next. It's a coating applied to high float roads 1 year after surface treatment to seal the road. So this is the list. There's about 238,000 planned for 2025, 483,000 planned for 2026, and just over 300,000 in 2027.
Any questions or comments on the pulverizing and slurry seal process? thorough enough. We're good.
Next is replacing existing sidewalks or installing new sidewalks. Gravel shoulders is application of new layer of aggregate, so a different type of stone to gravel roads. And guide rails is replace as needed when damaged by accidents or general wear and tear. This item can also include the installation of new guide rails where determined to be necessary. So again, here's a summary of the works for 25 to 27.
Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. Just about the sidewalks downtown, when's our warranty up with our different construction, the contractor? And if there's any more issues that come forth, do we have to pay for them?
Through you, Chair Morrison. So our warranty's up when they replace the last bit of sidewalks on Main Street. So the end of this year, the warranty as per the contract is up. Any issues with that after in 2025 will be our responsibility to replace. We are obligated to do a sidewalk needs assessment every year. So we do that. We get that report and then we fix that accordingly.
I guess a quick follow to that, with the warranty expiring, have we identified any issues currently that would need to be addressed?
Through you, Chair Morrison. So we did a final walkthrough with the project team and the contractor. We did identify any of these spots that had deficiencies, and they have been corrected. So we've signed off now on the sidewalks for Main Street reconstruction.
Excellent. Councillor Remick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And this is also to Brandon. Just so Main Street West, we're not talking about the new section of Main Street. We're talking about, let's say, from Lorne towards the west end. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Chair Morrison. As per the sidewalk master plan, there was an identified missing link, as you will, and it was on the south side of Main Street West that can get you down to the MTO building. It kind of stops at where Ron Pratt's business was. So, and then that just carries on. Yeah, you can find that map on our website, but happy to provide it to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. And we'll carry on.
Okay, so that concluded the roads section of the project. So so for roads maintenance, we have some tools and equipment replacement planned in both 25 and 26. 2025 includes some mobile generators, and 2026 includes a hot water diesel pressure washer and water pump.
Great. I guess because we did finish the roads portion, is there any other questions regarding the roads budget whatsoever?
Sorry, just on that last slide where we were looking at guide rail replacement, it says guide rail replacement and then guide rail replacement as well. So is that a specific area, or is that, it's on the last slide where it says sidewalk and then gravel and then guide rail?
Sorry, it's just because we had a header on there for guide rail, so we should have just put guide rail, I guess, and taken out the replacement. So the guide rail replacement is just the general, just whatever comes up.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
All right, move on to the next section.
So the next section is fleet replacement. So this is regular replacement of town fleet. One item to highlight is that the plow standard dub replacement that's labeled here as 140-48 and 140-50. The difference is in 2026 is due to an increase in cost of the chassis because of new regulations. Just you'll see there, the one's 450 and one's 510. Maybe I can use this.
I guess, so the same vehicle, but with a different chassis, which costs 60 grand more, have we discussed buying both of them in the same year before the new regulations come in?
I'll ask Shane to come down.
Shane Taylor, come down and discuss that.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, that would be in a perfect world. Yes, we'd love to do that. The new chassis are having to configure all these new emissions that are coming in. So if we are able to, yes, I would be totally on board to save 60,000. But moving forward, we have to realize that that price will move on in plows, trucks, and also with fire trucks as well too. So we got to keep this in mind as fleet in general. So, yes.
So we're not going to be able to avoid it in the future, but, and I guess there's obviously budget implications of moving 450,000 into 2025's budget. But I don't know, that's from the fleet perspective. From the budgeting side, Director McKenzie, I'm wondering, could it come from a reserve? Well, it will come from a reserve anyhow. Is it something that you think is reasonable? Because $60,000 is a lot of money for the taxpayer. So I'm just wondering what everyone thinks about that. Yeah, and I guess maybe to Mr. Taylor on if you commit to the purchase, does the time of delivery matter? If they were to deliver it the following year, does that still then fall into the new requirements? Or if you commit to the purchase?
If we commit to the purchase, sorry, through you, Chair, if we go through the process, I think we'll be able to get the vehicle price for the year that we ordered it.
And then it probably wouldn't be delivered till much further down the road.
If we get on this sooner than later, hopefully we could have it in the same year.
So, Dr. McKenzie?
Yes, that is certainly something that, that committee could recommend, that we just change the year of that project from 26 to 25. So we could, if somebody wanted to amend that later on, maybe that would be one of the amendments that we could look at.
Yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily impact the levy for 2025, right? Because it's coming out of reserves. Okay, so it's something, keep that in mind. That's an amendment. Any amendments you want to put towards the end of the day, we can put a pile of amendments together to make some adjustments. Anybody have any comments on that? Councilor Cloutier and then Mayor Alcock.
What is for the future emission standards? I mean, there's a reason why this is being done. Not that I agree with it, because I'm in that business, but because the cost is crazy. But like, what's their reasoning, and are we going to get caught in the future trying to retrofit, say, these newer trucks, spending money in the future to retrofit them to meet the new standards?
You, Chair, that would have to look into a little bit further and get back to you on that.
Yeah, because I mean, sounds good saving 60,000 in the year, but you got to turn around in a few years and if the government comes back and makes you retrofitting costs more than what you are in your original purchase price. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good question. You save the money now and you get the phone call. Guess what? You got to install these new things. But when you look at something that's on the chassis to handle these things, I don't think that'd be an easy retrofit, right? Do you think that they would have to let us use the equipment as it is until such time that we replace it?
I don't believe, through you, Chair, I don't believe that everything that we currently have to retrofit it. It's just a new standard moving forward. So everything that we currently have, it's, for a better word, lack of word, a wash. Anything from 2026 forward has to have the new emissions, and the chassis have to fit these new components. Is basically what it's coming down to, unfortunately.
Okay, that makes sense. So you can ride out the usefulness of the current fleet without having to retrofit, but anything newly purchased, okay.
Yes.
Does that answer the question? Okay, that makes sense. Mayor Alcock and then Councilor Remo.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And just to follow up how, I think it's a good idea, actually. I sort of like it. On the other hand, I'm not sure how it doesn't affect the levy, because wouldn't we'd be taking more out of reserve than anticipated. Therefore, don't we have to increase the amount that we are contributing to reserve in order to do it?
So it will actually, it'll change the reserve balance at the end of 2025, but it wouldn't necessarily have an impact on the reserve balance at the end of 26.
So we don't necessarily have to,
Yeah.
okay. All right, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. That was my question as well.
Okay, and I know I just start to do some math. It's about a 12% savings on the cost of the equipment, maybe 13%. I know that with some of our investments, we're making 8 to 10%. So even we're taking something out of the reserve that's in investments to save money for the short term, but it is $60,000 for the taxpayer. So, Councilor Renwick.
I thought of another question. Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just out of curiosity, how long do these trucks last? Like, how long are we replacing these vehicles? We have 2 new ones coming in the next 2 years.
To you, Chair, we're keeping them probably about 8 to 10 years. is what the lifespan is. Also costing, when we're talking about costing, we're also going through the canoe procurement. So we are saving ourselves 5%. If we weren't using the canoe procurement, you would add probably another 5% onto the cost of the apparatus too. So we are saving monies on the backside as well too.
And is that procurement, is that a group procurement? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Follow up?
If I may, a follow-up. Thank you for that, Shane. Just a question then, what happens to these trucks once we, like after the 8 and 10 years? Do we sell them? Do we use them for parts? What do we do with them?
To you, Chair. All the trucks now, basically, we at the end of their life, we put them on gov deals, and we get a percent, not a great deal, but we're averaging probably about $12,000 per truck. So we are getting some money back, just not a great deal.
And I guess on that, Shane, obviously that's the effective lifespan of the vehicles.
Yep.
And you're working hard on fleet to make sure they're lasting and being in good working order. But is there, with the cost of vehicles now, have we looked at trying to extend our usefulness? Is there anything we can do, or is that something that would go against regulations or risk management?
Through you, Chair. Currently, I would say that what we're doing is probably good. We really have to work on our preventive maintenance to expand that lifespan. But currently, I wouldn't say that we go any further than we are.
And that might tie into the mechanic position that we're thinking about in the budget, so keep that in mind. Any other questions on this stuff? Okay, great dialogue on that, and thank you so much for your help, Shane.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I have one quick thing? Just along Councillor Renwick's question. So when we do put fleet on gov deals, which is like a platform to sell municipal equipment, the funds that we get from that, we put back into that appropriate reserve. So if it came out of the fleet reserve, we would put it back into the fleet reserve.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. We're still on the same slide, right? Perfect. A couple of questions I have. So we'll start with the backhoe for the cemetery. Didn't we just purchase a new backhoe for them 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
You, Chair. They have two, so this is for the second one. Yep.
Same with the emergency vehicles for the fire department. They're replacement vehicles,
These are replace the current ones that we have.
so half-ton trucks.
Through you, Chair. Currently, we have 1 half-ton truck that we'll be replacing with a half-ton. The second truck, I believe in 2026, is a ProMaster van. So that van will be traded in as a pickup truck.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions on fleet at the moment? We'll carry on.
Yours.
So now we'll look at parks, trails, and cemetery replacement projects that we have planned. So the first three are cemetery. Hutchison Interlock, this is a new request in 2025, so we'll have another slide dedicated to this later on in the presentation. It's Interlock at the cemetery, so it's planned for 2025. Cemetery for Interlock at Medill, so it's 15,000, also planned for 2025. This one's a new request as well. We're looking at proposing opening some additional space at Hutchison Cemetery in 2026. So we have a slide on that. It's a new request a little bit later on in the presentation. The next project, Longs Lake Launch. This is for a dock and ramp replacement in 2025. The next one, Goodwin Park in 26. It's a dock replacement. Avery Park Beach is a dock and crib replacement. Macaulay Robertson Pickleball. So this has actually two items included within it. The first is $5,000 for the user group request for the seating and dividers. So we also have this one being funded from the user group donation, user group contribution. The other part of this project is $40,000, and that's for repairs required to the pickleball courts themselves at Macaulay Robertson. The next item, we have our street lights at, we have Ripper Mill, but they're on the town dock area, so Rivermont Park area, the dock. And that's in 2025. Riverview Estates, that's a dock and ramp in 2026. Irene Street Playground, this is the safety surface replacement in 2025. Hunters Bay Trail for $14,000. This is a galvanized culvert replacement in 2025. Macaulay Robertson Skateboard Park. This is just for one of the signs to be replaced in 2025. Clark Crescent Multi-Court is the pickleball court repairs required at Creekside Park, and that's planned for 2025. And the last one on the slide is furniture and equipment. That includes some garbage barrels and picnic tables in 2025.
Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. A very quick question around the pickleball courts at Macaulay Robertson. I don't know, we just put those in like 2 years ago, I think. Was it 2 years ago? So is it unusual to start doing repairs and maintenance at 45,000 for like 2 years in? Or am I missing it? Maybe I'm missing it.
I'll actually just add, there's actually 85,000 as well for the Clark's Crescent multi-courts for repairs. Just wanted to make sure that was noted as well. And maybe,
That's a separate item though.
but similar, because that was a project that
We're
was
gonna have
done very
Oh, that was
Tina
also
come
done.
down.
Ah, okay, here comes
Discuss that.
Tina. Here comes Tina. Great. Yeah, that was exactly, yeah. So do we, that's a bit of
Through you,
money.
Chair Morrison. So it's come to my attention this summer that the 2 courts that we put in a couple years ago, the surface that we put down is not the high amount that we should have put in. So we put the low amount of what was put in the budget. We, back in the day, didn't know that pickleball courts were going to be completely used the way they are today. So I physically do see them play. So they usually come out about 6 o'clock in the morning and they're there till 9. It's being used a lot. The surface should have some fiber material in the court. I've had a few contractors come out in hoping that somebody would tell me some good news. But I hate to be the bearer of bad news. But going forward, we should be looking into the higher end. A lot of subdivisions now are putting that in. So it's going to be interesting to see, because we do have some courts going in new development, sorry. So it'll be nice to kind of see. We do have a court coming in that's made out of concrete. So it will be interesting to see what will play out in the long run. But yes, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the brand new courts do need some repair. And we do have some pictures to show, and I'd be more than happy to take each and every one of you out. It is peeling, and it's going down to the asphalt. So sooner or later, it will be coming through. Take it
Really
easy,
good
Tommy.
feedback, and then
Yeah.
Mayor Alcock.
Just to follow, thank you very much for that feedback, Tina. I'm still a little stunned because it was so, it's not that long ago on both courts. And obviously with this, you're putting in something that will have a much longer lifespan. You know, that's your hope.
Through you, Chair. I've met up with at least 8 contractors
Yep.
and hoping somebody would tell me different. And this is what everybody is doing.
Perfect.
So
Thank you for your response. Okay.
And thanks for the research into the right solutions. It's good. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morris. Along the same line, if this construction goes forward, it would be in the off seasons, I would hope. With that much use.
this seat's getting a little hot. So just to bring it to everybody's attention, when we do pickleball courts or any type of courts that have asphalt, we do want to make sure we have good season weather. Anything that goes close to 5 degrees is not suitable. We don't really want to see that happening. So yes, I know it's just like construction, right? So we can't do it in the winter. We got to do it in those hot sunny days. So we are working on the other courts that are in the works right now. But I do hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we will start construction early in hoping that it will finish in a faster ending than all season.
So it's on your mind. Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you. So great news, Tina, because I was gonna ask about the Clark Crescent one, because I knew it was just done a couple of years ago. And then I got a little excited because Suzanne said Creekside, which is actually the park down by the beach, but I think you just meant Spring Creek is the actual road for Clark Crescent, correct?
That's Spring Creek Lane, not Creekside?
Yeah.
Okay.
not Creekside, okay.
Okay. All right, and I guess, I don't want to jump back, but just had a thought, Director McKenzie, on the fleet and that plow truck. You do sell them on Gov Deals when they're used. If we ended up buying that vehicle sooner, we'd be selling a vehicle sooner. Would that let us get a bit more money on Gov Deals from that vehicle that we're selling? Most likely it's a year newer, right?
I'll be honest, I don't.
The answer is yes, okay. So it might be $2,000, $5,000, 10, who knows, but it is a bit more, something to consider. Okay, great. And thank you, Shane. Okay, continue on.
Oh, sorry, go past here. Okay. So just to continue on with the parks and trails, as you see, there are quite a few projects that are slated over the next couple of years and in this department. So we do have the Port Sydney Beach. This includes shingles on the washroom roof and some beach landscaping in 2025. The locks is a structural mechanical in 25 that we recently had a report about, and that includes assessment and inspection and retaining walls upstream at Brunel Locks, and in 26 would include dock, launch, and crib repairs. The Glenwood Park Playground includes some playground equipment replacement and surface replacement in 26. The turf equipment is the replacement of a UTV side-by-side in 2025. Project 70705 and 70706 are user group requests that have been included in the draft budget as discussed earlier. The Rivermill Playground includes replacing the playground and surface in 2025. And I did note here that it was originally installed over 15 years ago, because that question keeps coming up, because it seems like we just installed them, but it has been 15, yeah. Sorry, no. Selkirk Park includes playground safety surface in 26. Hutchison Beach Playground includes playground and surface in 2025. The Wasiosa Lake water access is a new request. Later on the presentation includes railing and stairs in 2025. Thailand Park is the landscaping for 2025. And Avery Beach parking is also a new request that we'll talk about later in the presentation. It includes expansion of existing parking lot in 2026.
Okay, we got Mayor Alcock. We got a bunch. So Tina, you're still in the hot seat. We'll start with Mayor Alcock, and then we'll go around.
Thank you. And Tina, just on the Thailand Park, that is it's more than landscaping. It's stairs, it's the railings, it's probably some shoring up the bank. What does that include?
I can explain it all to you, Mayor, through you, Chair Morrison. So with this, it's actually not Thailand Park, it's Echo Bay. So this is the one that everybody's been wanting to hear about. So today's your day. So this is this amount that's in here. It seems high, but this has for trees that need to be coming out of there. It is on a steep hill, so we do need to try to make a nice pathway down. It's going to have some stairs and a dock at the bottom of the landing. With this, we went with the higher amount of what we got from the engineers to look at it. It's also going to have some surveying of our property there as well, so that amount is in this as well. It is steep, so we went with the higher amount because back in a couple years ago we did North Vernon, and we came in under budget, where the next year we had to come back to council and ask for some more money to finish it because it was too steep. So this hopefully would cover, so we don't have to come back and ask, hopefully.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we'll go to Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. The muscle program or project. So are we paying the full pop for that, 134,000, or is that through donations? Is that number going to drop?
Director McKenzie?
So for that one, we have The majority of that coming from Parkland and Lou funds, with the remainder coming from grants. So I believe originally in their presentation, they had said $30,000 that they would be contributing, but I think we will continue to work with them because they may have more money than that. So we would obviously adjust that and take their funds for that project, so we can reduce what our contribution is, or the town's contribution is.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's phase one. They want to do more, right? So that's something that we have to look into as an overall plan. And a follow-up?
But not on that, just let Councilor Boucher go. I have one more question. Wasiosa Lake water access. How much is that used, and is it only serving a small group of people? Like, I know we used to have that at the end of, on DeMary Lake by MBC camp, and we removed the stairs there. So I'm just curious.
So through you, Chair, I be honest with you, I don't know how much it gets used, but I do know that the camp beside it, their staff do use it. We aren't out there as much to keep track of how many people use it, but when we do go out monthly to do an inspection of the dock, we do see people using it. This area is on our website that shows that it is a dock area. We do have a dock there. I know a lot of fishermen, people in ice fishing do use that area. This area is on a cliff, and it needs to have some kind of steps down to the lake. If not, then we should be removing the dock because this is a safety concern.
Councillor Stone on that, and then we'll go over to you.
Just to speak to that, so I use that, and every time I go there, there's people always down there with their dogs or swimming all summer long, and it's a really steep bank. Somebody's put a rope up so we can climb back up.
Yeah, and that's great until the rope breaks when Bob's hanging on. But I'll concur that it does get used a lot. But it's not it's steep, but it's not a long way. Like, it's a pretty short little distance down, which is good. Deputy Mayor, a follow up.
So in this, Tina, so was there any cost for maintenance to look after them afterwards? Like, if they get wet and become slippery, and the liability aspect of them.
So this would just be no different than any other docking area that we have. So we put in an amount. We'll look at if it's been passed of putting in, some councillors would like to see a quote put in for some Muskoka stone compared to pressure treated. So we'll look at some options there, and at the end of the day, we will still have to maintain it, but at least we've put something there now instead of using that old rope that's sitting there, because we take the rope off and people keep adding the rope. So
Okay, Councillor Cluche, and then Councillor Fitzgerald.
My question was answered. Thank you very much, Tina, on Thailand Park. Perfect. Glad to see that that's finally coming to fruition.
Perfect. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison, and through you to Tina. Tina, I'm glad you're considering a longer-term solution at Wasiosa, water access with granite. Certainly be maintenance-free other than having to clean it off from getting slippery. So it seems like money well spent. I'm just wondering what finish you're using on the Port Sydney washroom roof. We considered something that's less likely to be vandalized in the future. I know it's a considerable problem there with shingles being torn off. Are we going like for like, or are we changing the finish there?
through you, Chair Morrison, with that quote, that is just what we have right now, shingles. We can put tin up there if you like. The only thing is if the kids are up there walking, it's going to be more dangerous than shingles. At least with shingles, they got some tread. So somewhat, but it gets vandalized either or.
So if I
But
may
I'm
follow up,
with any
it
decision.
might end up have a twofold benefit there. Keep the kids off it. I know we spent a lot of money on maintenance and repair on the shingle replacement over the course of the lifetime of those shingles. So just consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on this section, guys? Okay. I think we're good. All right, back to you guys.
Thank you.
So the next area we'll look at is the fire department. The fire replacement projects include, the first one we have our tools and equipment. So this includes items like rescue equipment, chainsaws, and other. Oh, so sorry, the cemetery was included with the parks and trails. And just to note, the slides that we're going through there's been a few minor tweaks from the agenda. So that was one of them.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier.
I got the heads up on that, but any questions on that slide? Good. Okay.
So the other items we have at fire include the fire clothing and safety equipment. So that would be bunker gear, helmets, coats, pants, etc. The next item is radio and pagers, which that is a leased fire radio pagers item. The next one, the SCBA, is self-contained breathing apparatus. And so it's a replacement of that equipment. And the last one is the fire mobile IT technology. We have previously referred to that as rugged laptops. So that one is a carry forward from 2024. Are there any questions on the fire items?
Councilor Cluche.
With the SCBA, I'll say it's easier that way. Is that the system, I know they're the apparatuses, but is that the system that we put in for the refill and all that stuff? That's what that is?
No,
No,
through your chair, Morrison, to Councillor Cluche. That what the SCBA are the cylinders that are on the back of the firefighters. We've requested a couple more to. When we train, we're pulling SCBA out of service when we do training, so we've requested another 4 SCBA. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thank you, Chief. Councilor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And through to you, Chief. The rugged laptops. Oh, sorry. The rugged laptops. What are you using now if you're not using them? Like, what mobile devices are you using now?
Pen and paper. Sorry, through you, Councillor. No, we don't have any mobile devices in our apparatus as well, or at this current time. When we come back from a call, the officer will write on the back of the report, and then the administration time to now take that and put it into the computer is tremendous. So with the new software program that we've got this year, with the mobile tablets, the officers coming back from a call or at the end of a call can now enter all the information, and the administration part is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, carry on.
So next is the Community Services Division. So we'll start with Muskoka Heritage Place. So this includes the locomotive broiler. And I'm very pleased to have this in here with funding, because this has been in our budget for a long time. So it is split over 2 years with the funding from the Hartley donation. It is over 2 years because we anticipate the work will take 2 years to do, just because of the specialized nature of it. The Boyles Barn Kitchen, this is cabinets and countertop. The Maw House is wood stove. Purser's cabin is cabin railing, platform, footings, and windows. And the last one is the accessible door projects that are carried forward from 2024.
So the next area we'll look at is recreation and leisure services. The first item is first aid equipment. So this is the AED. So it needs replacement. The next item is some audio visual equipment in 2026, which is a projector. And in 2026, there's some fitness and wellness equipment, which is crash mats.
The next is Algonquin Theatre, and it is just to note that these items are pooled expenses that contain many different several components that are required to be replaced. So if replacement isn't required, like if these individual components aren't failing and they think they can get another year, they will be deferred to a future year, and the funds would just remain in the reserves. But based on what they've got, this is what they're expecting to have to replace.
Any questions on the last couple slides? No? Okay. Councillor Renwick.
I'm just curious, thank you, Chair Morrison, but what's the furniture that they're getting at the theater?
I'll have to
G-
look
Okay,
into
thank
that.
you.
Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
So I'll say they're black, oh, sorry, go ahead. They're black orchestra chairs, just so everybody else can hear too.
Okay, moving on.
So the next section we have is facilities replacement items. The first one we have is the Civic Center a roof replacement. The next item is windows and sills. In 2026, we have some HVAC work planned, some front steps and brickwork in 2025, carpet, and I believe this is it is the council chamber carpet. Sorry, I should have double checked that one. The next one we have are washrooms. So this includes some repairs to the second and third floor washrooms. And then the next one on here is the change room repairs. So this one has been carried forward from 2024. Staff have applied for a grant to cover 50% of this project.
Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. The front step brickwork, after this work is done, are we able to use it? Or we still got it blocked off?
Greg Pilling will come down and discuss that.
It's really actually, I'll stay. Thank you, and through you, Chair Morrison, the stairs are currently usable now. This is patchwork, like structurally they're sound. This is to make them look a lot nicer and get rid of the rebar that you can see sticking out and clean them up.
Okay, I just wondered if we're spending that much money on them that we're moving forward in that future progress and project in it rather than just putting a Band-Aid on it until, yeah, $90,000 is a lot to put out for something just to Band-Aid it till we go ahead and do the whole project.
Through you, Chair Morrison, they've been deemed like this would be a complete fix and have them looking brand new, and structurally they're fine. They've been assessed and there's no issues there. So yeah, it's to clean up it would be a solid fix.
Okay, as opposed to a Band-Aid. Director Babineau.
Through you, Chair Morrison. Also, the town hall working group that report came back to council, and we're not doing any kind of movement of the stairs or new uses. So they are used for a fire escape, I do believe, for the theater. But the brick, this particular dollar amount, is really for holding those bricks together on the side of this building. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Babineau and Greg. Any other questions on that? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I'm just curious, we're doing work on the second floor and third floor washrooms. I always notice an odor on the main floor washrooms, and I don't think it's been addressed or has been able to be addressed. I think they've tried, but I wonder if we're still continuing with the efforts there to try and solve that issue.
I've noticed that since the day they opened. Anybody have any input on that, and if there is anything we can do?
We'll make a note of it, but I don't know that we've circled back to do that. So we'll take that information and circle back, I guess.
I guess to that end, has there been any research done yet, or would we be starting now? I just wonder if anything came up in the past about what the cause was and solution was.
Through you, Chair Morrison, I don't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and investigate it, but I do recall we've done some work down there, but I don't know enough off the top of my head to answer.
Yeah, Councillor Fitzgerald.
I think CBO Nagy has been aware of the situation and has had it investigated previously. I just wonder if it's something we shouldn't give up on as of yet.
Yeah, I think if we can keep a focus on that, CEO Corey might have some.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So if memory serves me correctly, some of the issues had to do with the dry trap, and it's because those washrooms aren't used on a regular basis. But we absolutely will follow up with our facility staff to see if they can provide more information. But we definitely have looked into it in the past, and the dry trap comes to mind.
It does have that kind of smell for sure. That does make sense, and it's smelled the same since day one, so it's consistent smell. I guess on that end, in the short term, if we can't fix it, is there some kind of fragrance or something? I mean, we got to avoid fragrances, but is there something we can do to make it fresh flowers, something that can make it smell a bit better? Because it really is, it does put you off when you're at a show when you go in to use that bathroom.
If I may, Councillor Morrison, Chair Morrison, that smell has been there for over 20 years since the theater was put in. And it's exactly what you said. It's the dry trap because it's not used on a regular basis, there's a smell that comes out of it. So it's kind of charming. It's been there a long time.
If you're into that, it's historic. CEO Corey?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So just getting confirmation from my team that my memory did serve me correctly, and it is definitely the live trap or the dry trap, and we have to pour water down the trap. So we will make an effort to do that more often to try to reduce the odor in that washroom.
And I'm glad,
Especially before the show.
I'm glad it's a dry trap, not a live trap,
It's
but that would
not a
explain
live
things.
trap.
That would
I
explain
hope
things.
it's not a live
Yeah.
trap. It's a dry trap.
Okay, we got to empty that live trap. Any other questions on that? Councillor Schumacher and then Councillor. No. But anything. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair Morrison, just to confirm with Greg that the change room repairs were the ones we had confirmed in 2024, but are now in the 2025 budget, correct?
Through you, Chair Morrison, that is correct.
I believe Councillor Renwick had a comment.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And just to confirm, are we looking at things now to say, let's not do them? Or is this?
Absolutely, yeah. Today, the next 2-day exercise is to make adjustments if needed.
Yeah, because
I mean, I tried to save us all a lot of time and just pass it, but we're gonna.
I know,
We're gonna look at anything, any comments, any questions. That's why SLT and managers are here.
Right.
So,
No,
yeah,
I understand that.
Even the smallest of thing is worth bringing up.
Sure. Well, and I guess the carpet for me, this was brought up when we first became councillors in 2022 of our term. Why can't we wait till to the end of this term to leave the carpet? It's $35,000. It's buckling under my chair, but I can handle it. It's okay. So I don't think it's something that we absolutely necessarily have to do. And I think the budget that we're looking at is something that we absolutely have to do. So.
I would concur with that, to be honest. Absolutely. Councilor Cluche?
As long as it's not a health and safety matter, we could do it. So is it a health and safety matter? Okay.
Keith is saying
One
it.
director saying yes and two saying no. If it's a health and safety matter, it has to be changed.
I can't hear what's being said over there.
Thank you, and through Chair Morrison. There is various health and safety concerns that have been raised over the last number of years. Most notably in the last year or two, there's a number of seams that are coming up and they are currently fastened via, I think, I'll use a technical term here, duct tape. And with that being said, and Greg, feel free to jump into that additional context here. The last time our carpet contractor was here, he's like, this carpet is well beyond its useful life cycle. I will not be performing any other repairs, even patchwork, seam work. He's like, it's literally held together by dust. So like this carpet is definitely at the end of its lifespan, and the seams are bowing, they're fraying, they're coming apart, and duct tape is not a long-term solution to really hold it together, unfortunately.
Well, okay, thank you, Keith. I don't share his assessment that it's being kept together by dust. I think there's one strip of duct tape here. And there's a strip there. So there's two strips, one that Mayor Alcock is hiding from the public. But if someone's tripping here, then they literally have to be under Helena and mine's chair to trip. So I don't see it as a safety risk personally, but that's just my take. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Personally, I don't see the safety risk either, but I'm not sure why we would be replacing like for like in here with carpet. I think there's a lot better options that we could look at, like a commercial grade laminate or something, for an example, that would last a lot longer than carpet would. Just my thoughts on it.
Mayor Alcock on that.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and I absolutely support what Councillor Clark just said. that maybe it's not putting it in the budget for 25, but maybe 26, and we're looking at other options.
I'll support that. Councillor Fitzgerald?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just one further comment. I think they like the carpet in here for the resonating sound and sound quality.
Keep that in mind. If items like this come up and we want to put amendments on the table at the end of the meeting or when we get to the point of looking at the motion, that's great. Any other questions at this time? Okay, I'll pass it back over to you guys.
So just to continue on with the facilities list, we have some furniture at the Canada Summit Center, and I believe this is accessibility equipment. There's sorry, I skipped over the heat band, the hot tub, that is the recent hot tub project that we have put in for 2025. Staff have applied for a grant for 50% of this project as well. The next one we have is roof repairs. The ice floor covering is one of the new requests that we have included in a slide later in the presentation. The next one we have are, two fire alarm panels at Stevenson Hall and Port Sydney Hall, and then a kitchen door roof covering in Port Sydney.
All right, so Deputy Mayor Armour and then Councillor Stone.
For myself, the ice floor covering, I think that should be removed. It should become HMAT or a mat tax. I don't think we should be putting in here.
I think
it was also in the DC report we had. So,
Yeah, that's something we should discuss at the GC meeting, but I think that's only in there if we get a grant, right? It's not something that's going to come out of the budget. It's only there if we were lucky enough to get a grant, we'd consider it. But otherwise, we're not looking at spending any money on it. But it's in the budget. Yeah, just kind of like that steam engine was in there with 80,000 for several years. If the grant came, we'd do it. If not, we're not doing it. Councillor Stone?
So I do believe that HMATA didn't deny funding most or all of the ice floor covering, but they did want some justification. They wanted to have more metrics to make a decision to say this will allow us to bring more events to town, as opposed to the hypothetical we might. So they wanted some more metrics. And so that's not out of the question for HMATA to do that. Regarding the hot tub, are we only going forward if there's grant money for the hot tub, or it's my understanding that it's perfectly usable as it is?
So in the budget right now, we do have it in the budget. So if council does wish to only proceed if we get a full grant for it, I guess you're looking for a full grant for it, which
I would love a full grant for it.
may be unlikely. But right now it is in there to go forward even without a grant. So if the council wishes to change that, they can certainly.
I would like that removed or justified in a better way for me.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Very valid.
Is it usable? 'Cause I
It's
understood
usable,
it was
but hard to
broken.
fix. And I think Director Babineau could
broken
speak
at
to
this
it, but
point.
it is usable, but it's having trouble finding parts, et cetera. But I'll pass it over to Director Babineau.
Or through you, Chair Morrison, it's currently down. It's been down for about 3 weeks. It popped up, the water leaked through it, and the pipes popped up. So we're in the process of getting a fix done right now. But it's currently down.
How often, Greg, does this occur?
It's through you, Chair Morrison. It's down quite often. I can't recall on the exact stats from the report from last year, but it breaks down frequently. It's a commercial, it's a residential grade hot tub in a commercial pool.
Councillor Cloutier, and then did you want to follow up on that, Bob? Or okay, Councillor
Just-
Cloutier, then Mayor Alf.
Through you, Chair, just any ballpark, could you give us a ballpark on, revenue lost, if there is revenue lost without it, and also what ballpark of repairs in a year that would take, or like, I don't know, just if you can give us just a little bit of insight into what our repairs are on that piece of equipment annually.
If I could take that one, through you, Chair Morrison. I'm going to suggest that the hot tub gets a lot of use. And we have a lot of partners that use the pool for therapy work. So if they were not able to have the hot tub as part of their therapy, they wouldn't be renting the pool. So we have a lot of our customers are looking for that hot tub. We have a lot of our partners, like I said, with therapeutic services that they provide as a rental through us that would go elsewhere or not provide it locally because there aren't too many hot tubs that are available for the public and for our partners to use. As for a number, I don't think Greg or I could pull that off the top of our heads right now, but we could certainly do a little bit of research and see what we've done in the last year and pull that up for you and provide it. For the numbers of days that we're down, I think what we've done just recently is, gone in and assessed the situation, been able to report back on what are the repairs, and we do feel confident that this will get us through again for another, with all of the use, there are wear and tear, and so with this latest repair that we're doing right now, I think it'll elongate till the next time that we have to do any kind of repair. It'll be a little bit longer again, because again, we've done some significant repairs, and it's new pipes and new pieces. The hot tub item that is currently in the budget is for the upgraded commercial use with the lift. And we've applied for that grant through that. So through that grant process, if we were to win that, I don't think it's 100%. It's ever 100%. It's only 50 at the maximum. So we would need approval to go ahead with this project if we want to replace that pool, that hot tub with the commercial going forward. Right now, we are advocating for getting this repair done right now so we can get our customers back in there. They are chomping at the bit to get back into that hot tub.
Councilor Cloutier with a follow-up, and then Mayor Alcock.
It's, excuse me, is the grant for the lift or for the hot tub too? I thought the grant was only for the lift, the 100% of the lift, or
Through you,
does any of the grant go towards the hot tub?
it is the hot tub, and the
Oh.
hot tub, this new commercial grade will have the lift included? Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the change rooms are included in that grant application as well.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Alcock, or did you want to speak first?
I was going to add one quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the grant application included both those projects together as one. And the reason that we've deferred the change room to 25 is because we need to see if we're successful or not before we start the work. Otherwise, if we start the work, we might not be able to claim it. So just so you know, we did apply for it as one combined project.
And vice versa, if it's not on the budget for the hot tub, you can apply for the grant for the hot tub portion, right?
That's what our policy says, that we can apply for grants if they're on our capital.
Okay. Mayor Alcock?
I think actually this whole last conversation was really what I wanted to talk about, which was we were applying for grant funding, and and we had to put it, identify it in our budget in order to do that. And we were going through the accessibility track, which I think we're quite hopeful that we would receive 50% of this. And I think it's really important to the community that uses this hot tub. So I fully support this being in the budget.
Councilor Schumacher?
Yes, through you, Chair Morrison, just to follow up on that. It is something that comes up quite often at our accessibility meeting, and I do believe the consultant said if we don't make it to a fully accessible thing, we might as well just fill it in with concrete and not have one, right? So I like that we're going for a grant. I also, as Director Babineau has pointed out, the users that use it, and I look at our pillars of healthcare at the top, when we're looking at stroke and rehab and that being a key component to Huntsville and the progression of the rehabilitation component staying here. Because when I did my tour of the hospital, they talked about how currently with someone with a stroke victim, they end up having to go down to Toronto and move the whole family down there to do rehabilitation. If there's opportunities here in our community, which is pushing that community forward to be able to do rehabilitation and stay here, because that is the goal with the stroke program, I think this is also a key component of that.
Yeah, and I think to close off on that, at the end of the day, these are the tough decisions we have to make. So we as a council have to decide, do we want a $400,000 hot tub? Are we willing to have a $400,000 hot tub if we get a grant for half of it? Or are we not wanting one at all? That's something we can discuss when we get to amending the motion. Any other questions on that? Okay, go ahead.
The next is legislative services, which is primarily IT. So a lot of these items, again, are pooled items. So they're individual components that make these up. And then you may see variations between each of these lines when they start looking at what's actually needed year to year. So the printers includes a variety of small printers, point of sale printers, card printers, for example. Networking is regular replacement of networking equipment at various locations, including the Summit Center, Medill, the Fire Station 1 and 5, Muskoka Heritage Place, and some others. End-use computing is regular replacement of like the laptops and desktops, that sort of thing. One item to note is the surveillance and door fobs. These are carry forward projects from 2024, which were again in the library, and these are expected to be completed in 25.
Okay, any questions on any of those items for budget? Okay, so.
Oh, sorry. Oh, so now we're going to go into the operating overview. So I guess just before we go any further, just to make sure there's no other, just from the chair, if there's no other questions regarding capital, if we can move forward to operating.
Yeah, I'll just let everyone know we'll do a break right at 3 o'clock, if that's okay, unless someone really needs it sooner, but that'll be the plan. Okay.
So now we'll take a detailed look at salaries, wages, and benefits, or we refer to it as SWB, and the changes by year in each of the different departments. It is important to note because it is significant, it is a big budget change, but human capital does represent about 62% of the town's operating expenses. It is the main thing that's one of our big contributors. The town's salary administration policy outlines the process for market review of employee compensation, and this is to be conducted every 4 years at the midterm of each council. In September 24, council did provide direction to administration regarding the implementation of the compensation and internal equity review, and this direction has been included in the draft budget for 2025 and 26. The budget change year over year includes, for each of these divisions, includes positions being recommended, compensation adjustments, and statutory benefits that change year to year, including CPP, which is, I just wanted to note, which is in it's in year 2 of a 2-year phase of their enhancement plan. So there is a fairly significant impact with CPP. There's also adjustments for increases set by the province for minimum wages.
So this next section, we wanted to highlight some changes in the debentures. Several years ago, a commitment was made to direct any savings from debentures that are ending to be directed to the capital reserves in an effort to reduce the infrastructure gap while reducing the impact on the taxpayer. Because there is a recommended increase being included in this draft, the budget working group has recommended reducing the budget by those debenture payments and not directing the same amounts into capital contributions. So the two ending debentures, there's 48,000 in 2025 and 70,000 in 2026 that were just added to general funds instead of capital contributions. Next, we will get into the divisional overviews, and we'll pause at each division to allow for potential questions. And just to highlight, staff are available to respond if committee members have questions, concerns, or need further clarification. This is just a high-level overview of the changes by division. So we'll look at each division in more detail in the following slides.
So corporate management covers the office of the CAO, council, human resources, and corporate and community strategy, which now also includes marketing, communications, and economic development. For each division, we've just shown a little snapshot which has each of the year and how each of the sections in that division, how their operating budget compares year to year. So for the CAO office, it's lower in 25 than 24 because of a reallocation of the salary of the committee coordinator, which is now in development services. Human resources, you'll see an increase in 25, and that's for the new health and safety specialist position. Council, there's some increase in 25 for the reallocation of some SWB from the CAO office. And corporate and community strategy, just note again, marketing and economic development have been moved from development services now to the corporate and community strategy. And again, this just shows a snapshot by each of the items that or kind of departments within that division that make up the change. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Remlick?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just to clarify, so under human resources for corporate management, that 33% increase from 2024 to 25, is that the proposed specialist?
That's correct. That's primarily due to the new specialist.
The new
position.
person. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good time if I could have Keith speak to the importance of that position and what's being done now and the benefits of having that position in place.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and through you. So with the health and safety specialist position, the functions are currently being overseen by myself and our existing HR specialist, Samantha D'Souza. So at this point in time, I just want to stress, we are meeting our legislative requirements when it comes to health and safety. But the way that I guess we look at health and safety here within HR now, so as an organization as a whole, is we just don't want to be meeting, we want to exceed, our health and safety expectations and requirements. So with that being said, there's been a lot of, downloading that has happened in terms of legislation that's coming on to the municipality. One being the Sudbury case that our legal team presented the outcomes of to you guys earlier this year. So with that being said, there's a lot more due diligence that needs to be undertaken. Also, a part of the health and safety specialist position, they are responsible for doing all of the occupational, non-occupational claims management. With a spike over the last number of years when it comes to non-occupational claims, so that'd be like STD, LTD. It really requires more of a dedicated resource to manage the complexities of these cases. So if this position here, it would really enable us to bring in, an in-house expertise individual to handle not only the claims management, but also to champion our health and safety program, because this is so much more that we could be doing to really provide, a quality program here, because the ultimate goal here is to be core certified. That is the ultimate benchmark that we're striving towards, and we just need the boots on the ground in order to strive towards that.
Thank you for that, Keith. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Morrison. A quick question to Keith. How did you come up with the wage for that position? It seems to be quite a stretch from 65 to 140,000. So when you look at wages for that type of job.
Yeah, no, thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you, Chair Morrison. So in terms of determining the wage for the health safety specialist position, so the policy of the town is that every newly created position or any position that does undergo a fundamental change in terms of its core job duties gets evaluated by an external third-party consultant. So this consultant looks at the 12 compensable factors that makes up the overall job evaluation for every position. So this evaluation is comprised of the duties, responsibilities, and also the qualification that is required in order to do the expected responsibilities. So going through this process here, the consultant returned it within the corresponding band. I don't have the band in front of me. I think that's band 6, but please don't hold me to that because I don't have the information from here at the second. So then we slotted into the corresponding band, which then determines the salary rate. So given the level of expertise that's required within this position, it is truly a specialist type role. It's not like an administrator, like a return to work administrator or a coordinator level. Like we really need someone that has, you know, lived and breathed this, and then this is something that they are fully certified and designated in.
Cool. Great question. I guess, and Keith, to that point, do you think it'll be a challenge finding someone with that expertise?
I sorry, through you, Chair Morrison, I am quite optimistic that we'll be able to find someone with this skill set. Does that mean we might have to expand our reach in terms of looking into more of the southern part of the province? Most likely. But with that being said, you know, we will endeavor to get the best possible fit for this position to ultimately, you know, bring the organization's health and safety program to the next level.
Right. Any other questions on that department? Okay, we'll carry on.
So David, the CEO, Chief Librarian, will come forward and present for the library section of the presentation.
Afternoon, Council, and everybody watching online. Thanks for the time here today. A lot of our board members are unfortunately busy and aren't able to be here today, so I know they'd like to be here, but you've got me instead. And just let me know if I need to speak up at all. So I've spoken in the past, and as of recently in July, when we came here to talk about future library needs in the building, about the importance and the impact libraries have in the community and in general in communities. I won't go into too much details about that because we've already had that conversation, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation anytime outside of this one, or any questions related to that. So I'll read my little script here because I want to hit all the points there. Do you want me to? Or,
Sorry,
oh yeah, that's fine. There's the overview that's every department has, but mostly I want to get into sort of the meat and potatoes, I guess, of the ask. And then one of the few changes before I go through some of my points, we do have, as Julia mentioned, a master plan slated for 2025, which some of the funds are to be coming out of development charges. Some of it's being pulled from the library reserve, so like a 50-50. And as well, there is another pull or ask for a reserve pull. We have our Huntsville Forester newspaper archive. The current vendor is sunsetting that service. It wasn't really their meat and potatoes, if you want to say, if you want to sort of give a phrase to that. And so the reserve is to cover the ingestion cost to go into a new platform. We've got a few vendors we're in chats with regarding that, and the amount that we're looking to pull from reserves, I think, is 20,000, and I've got a couple quotes around 16, and that's just to pull over the 100+ gigabytes and to ingest all the newspaper files. And then, of course, there's an ongoing fee, which is already incorporated into what we were currently paying to our current vendor, basically. So those are the major pieces outside of an SWB ask. And I'm more than happy to address any of the other details that council has seen in the budget that's come around. But so the main challenges the library in Huntsville faces today are that of community growth and ensuring the library is right sized to serve the community. A common theme we've heard from the community, and which I did mention, I believe, in our budget 2023 presentation, is that the community is having a hard time finding out what we're doing and the services available. So basically, you know, how to market the library. And when developing a strategic plan, the library board created a pillar, and so some of this strategic plan was informed by the community survey we did in 2022, a large survey. And the pillar is community access, outreach, and engagement to ensure that the community is aware and engaged about what's going on with the library. So with the growth of our public outreach and programs that we've had over the last few years, which you may have made a note of, we've had a lot more big public events. It has left some of our marketing aspects sort of to be desired, basically. Because this position, we have two positions who are covering sort of our marketing piece, and they're quite small of part of their job percentage. And they were also added sort of as the needs became sort of more known and to be done within the organization, they were added on to existing positions. So these, for example, the community engagement coordinator position, it's 5% of their job to do social media in the library, and that's just one part of marketing, as you can imagine. So the library needs a designated marketing position that would engage our community by developing a voice for the library online through campaigns. It would market services and programs, measure metrics of campaigns, create in-house assets like posters and marketing material for the library and also for the Friends of the Library, write our email newsletters, attend library events and programs to gather content for assets, and be a key position in fundraising, just to name a few efforts. And that last piece, I think, is going to be quite pivotal as we go forward when we're discussing potentially new building as well. And one thing that I didn't mention in our budget as well is we do have a line item for fines. I don't know if you know, we are the last library currently in Muskoka that charges late fees. We do hear about it quite a bit, and sort of in order to not impact the levy any more than needed, we have moved that line item revenue into a donation part of our revenue stream, and so we will be the board's already approved, going fine free, and we're working out the logistics, but we will be starting a little bit of a campaign about giving in order to meet that revenue fall, which is about $7,000. Not huge, but it's something. And so since my arrival here as CEO at the library, of the library, the board and I have worked diligently to ensure we follow council's budget direction. This includes in 2021, when the library was directed to cut its budget, resulting in cutting hours to the library that's open, and including a part-time position. Since then, following council's budget directions, we have not returned to all pre-pandemic hours and have not asked for that part-time position back. As community members and taxpayers, the library board and I understand all that council has to weigh during the budget process. With that knowledge and understanding comes the responsibility and duty that the library board and I hold. And that duty and responsibility is the library does not ask for something it does not need. As you can see, for the last 4 years, the library has diligently worked with the town administration to keep its budget tight and follow guidelines. This current position ask is something that is needed to right-size the organization, help the community get more value for the dollars allocated to the library by having more people know about the use and services, as well as alleviate the workload to staff to focus on more of their core duties and responsibilities. We are asking council to consider this request and see that we are looking to alleviate the increase on the tax levy for the position by using reserves to offset the cost over the coming years and phasing the position over time. So we did work with Keith Duncan in the spring to go through the SDB process, placing a position on the band, working with finance department in order to come up with some options, as well as the library board. And the request we would love to do, or the council to approve, it would be option A, where we phase it in part-time in June of this year coming, and then keep it part-time for 2025 with the library board kicking in reserves to cover half that position, and then working to phase it in with some reserves over the coming years to eventually work it into full-time to, again, alleviate any kind of burden on the taxpayer. And that's all I had for right now, unless you have questions.
Okay, thank you, David, for the presentation. Councillor Strong?
Thanks. Could the towns, we already have a marketing department. Can they not assist with some of this work so we don't have to have another hire?
That's an option that's been talked about. I don't know if we could get what we would fully need at a position. And then there's also having a shared position. There's also what might come into play, a hierarchy of needs. Do the town's needs at some point in time trump the libraries? Other factors that I've thought about as well, and didn't speak to Director Frame about this one piece, is that there have been times, and I know that there are libraries across the province and across Canada sometimes, and sorry, I should back this up further. The relationship that we've had as the library board and the municipality since I've been here with administration and town council, I think has been very amicable and very positive. I know of stories from colleagues where there may be a regime change, whether it's a CAO, and Denise Corey's pretty great and we have a great working relationship, or a council change where things aren't seen eye to eye, or maybe the library's offering something. For example, it's happened in one of the municipalities I'm not going to name, which is a neighbor of ours between here and Toronto, where the library is putting on that something like LGBTQ2S, and council that does not like that idea. And so I could see where there might be a discord. And so to hand over or have something like the library's social media live under the guise of the town, where there could be directions given by council to administration to, those staff members where those may not see eye to eye. And then does that put the library strategically in a bad position if regime changes happen? Despite the fact, again, this council's been very wonderful, and I'm not trying to butter you up or anything like that. And the administration, we get along really well and work well together, and that's always the goal. But nobody can ever anticipate what's going to happen in the future necessarily. So it's a great question, Councillor Stone. But I think, in order to maintain an organizational whole and to make sure that, the library could have, what it needed under maybe times of duress where those things may not be seen eye to eye, I think it'd be best that the position would potentially lay with the library.
CEO Corey, then Councillor Cluche.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. If I can just add, under the current library MOU, we do have provisions within our marketing department where we do try to assist where possible, but obviously our resources are stretched very thin as well, and the library has a greater need than we can currently provide with our existing staffing complement. We have had discussions about some shared partnerships, which we could elaborate on, but I'll leave it to David to finish his presentation.
That's all I had, unless there were questions. Basically, Councillor Stone kicked off the last part, which is basically just open for questions at this point in time, with what council had, and yeah.
Okay, Councillor Cluche.
Thank you very much, David. A good presentation. I fully agree with this, especially when the library board is adding in their own money to help cover some of the cost. Everybody knows how our main staff is run pretty thin as we are, and then we start dumping more on them. It's just the library's going to fall by the wayside. It's one facility that gets used a lot more than what people really think it is. If you went there, you'd see how it's full all the time. Like it's unbelievable how much it gets used. So I think it's something that we have to keep in our community and we have to support with it. And I'm fully within supporting the extra employee that we definitely need there, especially the way it's being phased in. I don't think you could get it set up any better than the way that there's been a lot of thought process put into this, and they've done a great job on it.
Councillor Clark and Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Thanks for your presentation, David. I guess the only thing I'll say is that, this council has very much supported the idea of shared positions within the town. And we've seen that happen over the last few years with Lake of Bays and different things. I think there's no reason why that shouldn't be any different with this case. And I think we should be focusing on how we make it work with the communications team we have, rather than, well, I appreciate that we're trying to look at ways to implement a new position gradually over time. It's just putting off the pain. And I think we need to do a better job of looking at how we can share the responsibilities in-house.
All right. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Thanks, Dave. Just a quick question. Do you have a process or a matrix that you are going to be able to use to monitor the effectiveness of having someone in this position?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, potentially increased traffic to our programs might be a metric to justify, but also just having somebody who has the breadth of knowledge coming from that industry to watch the metrics of social media aspects, And then some of the word of mouth through surveys we hear through campaigns and that kind of thing. So if we're even doing something that's more, not just, of course, because not everybody is on the internet, but again, something that relies outside of that when we're in public events to see if we have any kind of feedback regarding, oh, I've heard about this more often or that kind of thing. I think it's just word of mouth. But again, having somebody who's trained in the industry, in that marketing industry, to be able to use the metrics of the platforms that do currently exist to sort of start the measurements, basically.
Good. Okay, Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and thank you, David, for the presentation. I also support the concept of the position for sure. And I'm curious, I know that you guys have been so successful at working with the town on some significant events. And every time I hear, well, of course, the library, was huge in this event. I'm kind of curious, if you had this position, where would you see it being specifically for the library? Is there an example you think, oh yeah, this is what we would be doing that's apart from the town?
Yeah, sorry, and I'm not used to the formalities, so again, through you, Chair Morrison, to answer your question, Mayor, I guess it's another question. What do you mean specifically? Like, do you mean when you mention events, do you mean like where I'd foresee sending this person to be there on the boots on the ground kind of?
I guess I know that you said we not got rid of, but there used to be another part-time position.
Yes.
We haven't brought that position back, but it wasn't marketing coordinator.
No, it wasn't.
So
no.
it's a shift to a marketing coordinator. And
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
where did the board say, you know what, that's what we need versus the old position?
Yeah, I can elaborate on some of the question. Part of it originated from seeing the pinch point of the staffing levels that we currently have to meet those needs, and the ideas we'd like to roll out regarding some great social media campaigns that highlight, for example, library advocates in the community and that kind of thing. But what really came to as the sort of like the overview highlight in these discussions regarding budget and then about this position is sort of the direction the library board is seeing over the next few years when we're talking about potentially raising funds for the new build and being a key factor there. Also, this component about trying to maintain revenues by going fine free and having an awareness piece there. So having somebody who's going to help to market that piece as well. So those were the main highlights that came up to discussion in the budget process. And again, over the last year, the library board has been talking a lot about space building, and it's definitely something that's been touched upon. How do we fundraise? How do we do it in this community? And so that being a key piece.
Bob, yeah.
That answer, I was really appreciative of the answer because you've just added the component of a fundraiser, which I think, given the future of where the library could and should go, probably is pretty essential and not something that we would necessarily be able to share at this point with our existing staff. Just an important point.
Right. Councillor Cloutier?
Through you, Chair. I mean, we're all talking about, okay, the town staff doing the program. How about the town staff being able to utilize also the marketing person from the library on smaller projects or any co-projects that are together, and take some of the heat off and some of the workload off our staff that we have now? If we have that person in the library doing marketing, then they can also, if on joint projects or whatever, especially when you come to money and stuff raising, so it's two-way street. We don't have to just dump everything down on the current staff we have, but we have another staff that can help the staff that we do have.
Okay, Councillor Stone?
Thank you. Another crazy question. Would it be, we're sharing services with Lake of Bays on many fronts. Might this be one that we could share with?
And so can you be more clear exactly about how you envision sort of the idea of share? Like, I know that, from just my perspective of hearing comments and discussions about, IT services, the library is a part of that, fire services, just sort of what you sort of envision how that fits into sort of the current perspectives or models that the town has.
Could simply be number of hours spent promoting, marketing our library and theirs.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Denise. It's all a possibility. Again, the only thing that I think I would rest on is one of the earlier answers I gave about is if there's ever a discord on such a key strategic communication piece. You know, it's one thing we do have shared finance services with the town. What are IT? You know, kind of sort of more bread and butter, fairly straightforward. And again, I would be concerned, you know, regarding directions of future councils, future administration, where the eye to eye is not seen. It's one thing to say, hey, like, you know, we're submitting our bills to town to be paid, or, you know, IT's rolling out said policy that, you know, is basically for the better of security and that kind of thing. But I don't, to get where I'm going with this, I don't think there could be a problem sharing. I guess I'm just sort of saying, like, if it would be sitting under the umbrella of the library, I'd be more comfortable, rather than giving the reins of our social media to the marketing department. Again, the marketing department's great. Worked with Lisa. You know, there's no apprehension with the individuals who currently lay in the organization, basically.
Okay, and I guess just follow to Bob's point, I don't think you'd be worried about that happening. It'd be if there was, it's kind of like a part-time position where you get so many hours, Baysville gets so many hours, but the service would be totally separate. So you wouldn't have that issue, I don't think. But CEO Corey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think this is probably the appropriate time to let committee know that we have had some discussions with David regarding the potential of a shared additional service. So I can honestly say, with all due respect to our existing communication and marketing team, they are taxed. So in David's current situation, where we have an MOU, we are there to help when we can, but our time is very limited. So unfortunately, our town-focused items get the priority, and library would not. So I can appreciate David's position. We have had some discussions about a committed resource where 50% is very much dedicated to library. So to your point, Chair Morrison, 50% would be working strictly on library functions, and 50% supporting our existing communication and marketing team. And I know our staff have worked on some costing for that, and they do have some information, and I'm not sure if committee is interested in hearing what they've come up with.
Probably, because I'll be honest, my hesitancy is the library is one of our backbones for sure in our community. And it's funny, as technology gets more advanced, it's not affecting the usage of the library. It's being used more. My kids use it all the time. But I have a couple issues, like starting off as 25,000, then it's going to be 50, then it's going to be 100. So let's call it a $100,000 job, because that's what it is. And is it a job that we absolutely need to run the corporation? I'm not so sure. And so I think, and there's a lot of questions came around the table today that we don't quite have the answers for. Would you share? Could Lake of Bays do this? Could you share with the marketing department? Could our current staff do something? My personal belief is that I'd like to see it come back for 2026 with more questions answered, or come back at another time, because I don't think we're there yet. Considering we're already 62% of our budget is staff, and our staff are already working hard for sure. But I'm having trouble with it. I want to give it to the library because I think the library, we're punching above our weight class with the staff we have, and it is a critical component. But do we absolutely need to market it more? I'm not sure. We could use the marketing, but do we need the marketing? Any other comments or questions on that at the moment? Okay, Director Frame.
Hi, through you, Chair Morrison. So I just wanted to jump in here because I am newly kind of overseeing the marketing department. So it is a conversation that David and I had about potentially a shared position that would be sort of where I was coming from. It was, you know, I think it would be a phenomenal opportunity for the town and the library to partner on something that would be part of the MOU, that, you know, this potentially new position could be entirely focused on community services, not just the library, but all of community services, including the library, the theater, MHP, our aquatics programs, our rec and leisure programs, all of those revenue generating programs, which the library does have. I do agree with David that we really need to beef up our MOU with the library in terms of marketing, because I think they do deserve some more dedicated marketing support. And with a full-time position, shared position that would be under the marketing department, and an increase in the MOU, we could absolutely deliver that. And I have had these discussions with our marketing manager right now. We would be looking at, a person that could create content. So somebody who's got videography experience, photography experience, all of the content creation, and that would free up the strategic piece of it for our marketing manager to be less involved in the operational content creation and more involved in the strategic. And that's coming up with, social media strategic marketing and creating content and schedules around that. Creating an entirely a marketing strategy specifically for the library that they would have access to and would be very collaborative that way. David did talk about fundraising for a new building, and I believe Lauren McDermott just brought a report forward about a community fund, Huntsville Community Fund, and this would absolutely be something that we could support through our Huntsville Community Fund that is anticipated to be set up for 2025, and we could have a council-approved project specifically for that, which then takes the fundraising component a little bit off of staff, both the library and the town. And our Huntsville Community Fund would help promote that. We could also look at, with freeing up more of the strategic time in our management position, we could look at potentially new revenue streams like sponsorships. We have a fantastic sponsorship and dedication policy available to us, but we don't currently have the staffing in order to actually enact those programs. So coming up with, having this additional person that would absolutely be focused on content would allow our manager to focus on the strategy, focus on new revenue streams. I have worked with finance on figuring out, okay, could this fit in our existing 25-26 budgets? And we could still do it within the guidelines in both 25 and 26, and it's actually a little bit of a reduction in the levy in 2026 because we wouldn't have to hire third-party content design. We could, in 2027, I would expect to see revenue increases, and absolutely to Councillor Armour's question about metrics for the position, that would absolutely be something that would tie to that position. We would look at visitation to the library. We would, in addition to our rec and leisure programs and our theater and our museums, and we would absolutely tie a position to metrics and be able to report back on that. And that's something that we have the ability to do now. And we'd leverage the existing marketing team that we have now. We've got a great digital marketing coordinator who's phenomenal with the social media. We've got, communications. We've got our marketing manager who is phenomenal with the strategy. She just does not have the time to work on the strategy right now. So having that content creator really would balance out the team nicely and give the library exactly what they need, as well as our other community services areas. That's everything.
Councilor Remmer?
Thank you for that, Director Frame. That was very informative, and there was lots of information in there. I guess the bottom line is what I'd like to see are the numbers and how that would sort of pan out if we had somebody that was both a marketing person for the town as well as for the library. And David, just to go back to you, that are you open to that, to have someone that would be both dedicated to the library as well as working within the town?
Yeah, I did mention that I think the major hesitancy, but I think as long as it wasn't, the duties I mentioned is holistic. Again, I know Reva's mentioning more the digital piece because, she's sort of hiring somebody new who could do all of the town services as well as the libraries. But, it's again, like the in-house materials, the materials for the Friends of the Library, updating the content on the website. It's like, it is that all that and more basically. And again, the major hesitancy with, as any kind of council or changeover is really the main thing. But again, as long as it was very clear in the MOU regarding like the amount of time, and just making sure there's not any extra touch points, because nobody needs extra time spent communicating through channels. It's more or less, it's a little bit easier sometimes when they're actually there in the building, you know, or in touch with me on a day-to-day basis if there's something that happens to come up that's not necessarily planned, but like, oh, I got a great idea, let's chat about this. So there are some pieces. I'm not saying Riva's idea isn't great. It's actually, I think, a very creative one, but I think there are some things that might need to be ironed out for sure.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I love the idea of future revenue created by the position and what that position entails. So I like hearing that.
Okay, any other comments or questions for David while he's here? Okay, I'm sure we can reach out to you later on if we have some more questions. Thank you for your presentation and all your time.
Thank you, everybody.
And I think with that, we will take a break, 10 minutes. So that puts us back here at 3:30. Okay, thank you and welcome back to the meeting. I'm going to pass it back to our finance team to get things going again.
So the next division we're going to look at is the operation services. This the bar chart here in front of you shows the change in the operating budget per year per the departments within the division. So we have the director's office, roads and fleet, transit, parks and cemetery, fleet's on there twice, sorry, and then operation facility. The next slide here just shows the detail by department of the changes. Included in here, just some changes to highlight for operations. The mechanic position has been added in for 2025. 2025 also has the engineering technician student being added in for a partial year for the 1 year only in 2025, and then the engineering technician position full-time added in 2026. Any questions?
Questions on that part? We're good? Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I'm just curious, how many mechanics do we currently have in operations? Okay, second question, follow-up for that. How many bays do we have to accommodate? Can we accommodate 3 mechanics? I knew he'd come down.
See you, Chair. We currently have 2 mechanics, 3 bays. We do have the second building, sorry, that's the blue building we call it. It's basically just a glorified garage. We are putting, this year we're slated to get a mechanics lift. So one of the mechanics will be working out of that bay. So fingers crossed, if we get a new building in the next couple of years, everything will kind of gel and we'll have enough room for all our trucks and all our mechanics that we have too. So with the mechanic, also we are looking to get them so they're EVT trained, so electronic or emergency vehicle technicians, so that they can start working on our fire apparatus too.
Got a follow-up?
That was my follow-up to see if you're going to bring the fire department on. And also, are we going to be taking more of our current trucks for planning, et cetera, back in there for service instead of farming that out? So is there any opportunity for cost savings?
Through you, Chair. Are you speaking on the fire side or just in general?
In general for town and all our facilities, all our vehicles.
Yeah, that's the plan, is to start pulling stuff back. I firmly believe the first year is going to be kind of getting feet underneath us, but in 2026, I think we'll have a better idea and we'll be in a better spot, I think, once we get the 3 of them working together.
So there's a good opportunity with this coming on that we could actually save money going into 26, 27 instead of farming our vehicles out for service.
Oh, 100%. That's the end game for us, is to start bringing stuff back instead of spending all that money outside.
I got Councillor Renwick, Cluche, and Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And Shane, you're still on the hot seat there, but I want to ask you a question. The $170,000 in savings for 2024 in fleet, how did we do that? That's great.
Sorry, say that again? Sorry.
Sorry,
Maybe Julia can answer that one.
Oh, okay. I can repeat the question if you like.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay. So there is an internal allocation that is done with fleet, which I believe is probably where that savings is coming from. I think overall, if you look at their contracted services in between 24 and 25, it has gone up slightly, but then you'll see in the following year, it's only gone up slightly. So I think that's what Shane's saying, but the actual savings, I believe, is that right? It's from the internal allocations that go out to other departments like roads for the use of the fleet.
Within the fleet, okay. Great, thank you.
Great. Councillor Cluche?
Through you, Chair. We also have to remember one of the local businesses have closed in the last year that operated on heavy trucks, and that took 4 mechanics out of, basically at our service. So, when you need something fixed now, you're waiting a week, if not more, so you're taking that equipment out of service, I know personally. And you can't get anywhere. There's just not the garages in town to fulfill that loss right now at that time.
That's good to know. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I think Deputy Mayor Armour maybe alluded to it a bit, but I'm just wondering, like, you know, does the benefit of having another mechanic outweigh the cost of outsourcing the repair? And so, you know, when we're outsourcing, we're not paying for all the costs that are associated with an employee as far as staff wages and benefits. There's, you know, we're not paying for time off, we're not paying for benefits, we're not paying for holidays. You know, there's a chance that if we have 3 mechanics that we'll only have 2 anyway because one will be off for holidays. Or sick. So I'm just wondering, you know, how much work do we outsource now, I guess, is a good place to start. And, you know, is there gonna be an offset having a new mechanic? Are we gonna actually save any money by having a mechanic or not?
It seems to me that's going to be a phase in, but maybe some of the numbers.
Through you, Chair. Yes, and at this present moment, basically all of our admin vehicles have to get shipped out to get any type of annual done, repairs done. Currently, we're shipping, as Councillor Cloutier mentioned, we don't have any shops in the area. The closest one that we have is in Bracebridge, and if we are lucky, we can get in there 2 months from now. So we currently have 1 vehicle that's in Barrie right now. So to answer your question, I do believe that having a 3rd mechanic is going to, 1, help the entire town, and it's going to start bringing all our fleet back in, and working with the fire department to, like I say, it's 1 team too. So.
Good question. Thank you for the answer, Shane. Any other comments or questions on that part? Okay, carry on.
The next is fire and emergency services. And again, this just shows the different areas here over the year. We do also have included in fire and emergency the fire training center, but it's a net zero budget, so that's why you don't see it showing up here. So again, you will see a decrease in the net levy for the fire and emergency services, and that's primarily due, or all to do with the change in the budget for the Lake of Bays shared services. And again, moving away from the administration agreement over to a more shared services agreement. And this is just reflecting the services that they're currently getting right now, more at a 50-50 rate as opposed to what they were paying previously. There's also increased training for new and existing recruits. And also, as mentioned before, that new training, the chief training officer, the 50,000 being added in 25 and 26 to support the operations. So again, the training facility is included is revenue neutral, and any expenses are offset by revenues, with any surplus revenue would go into the fire capital reserve. Oh, sorry.
Okay, no, we're good.
Okay, next we have community services. This chart here shows the comparison operating levy by year for the different departments within community services. And this is the overview of the actual data that makes up the previous chart. Some highlights to go over for facilities. There's increased materials and supply costs. The year-round ice is a success revenue success story. There's been lots of community usage and attracting new customers. Sales and operating, there's some projected increases for 2025 at 8.9% increase in revenue over 2024. And for 2026, there's a 4.5% increase in revenue over 2025. Another item is the Kent Park Public Art project was increased from 25,000 to 50,000 in 2024 and has been split between 2024 and 2025 to reflect the updated project timelines. Increase in the budget supporting programming growth for Canada Day and National Indigenous Peoples Day as well. MHP operating budget highlights includes the number of visitors, schools, and groups, and programming demand is expected to increase and grow in 2025 and 2026, which is going to increase revenue. Modest increases in expenses are expected as well. Made at MHP and Made in Muskoka will be the focus of the gift shop in 2025 and 2026, reducing inventory costs. As demand for the collections grow, a one-time increase to collections is requested for shelving. In 2026, the diesel and steam train will be 100 years old, and staff have allocated 15,000 to mark this occasion. Aquatics, Rec and Leisure budget highlights increase in revenue of 52,000 anticipated due to increased additional participants and expanded program offerings. And some of that's attributed to the increase in the fees and charges bylaw. Aquatics received a community grant in the amount of 25,000 from Hydro Run to offer Swim to Survive program to the community. This program is designed to create a comfortable learning environment for families that may have little to no experience with swimming and water safety. The program is budgeted over 2024 and 2025. And staff are projecting revenues will increase by $20,000 between the 2023 budget numbers and 2026 due to all seasonal ice programming. Algonquin Theatre budget highlights technology within the industry is evolving at a rapid rate, and the budget includes revenue and expenses related to the new ticketing system. Revenue is expected to continue to increase year over year.
Any questions on community services? Yeah, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I might have missed it, but the community health clinic, what was that again?
The community health clinic is the annex building at the library that's being used by the doctors there.
Okay, all right, carry on.
If I may, I just want to make one quick just point or note. Just when we were talking about the HR budget, there was a question about that new position and whether that was the full amount. The amount that's showing with the HR budget, that's not the full amount of just that one position. That also includes other things like the CPP or CPP and other increases. So the 139 is not just that position. So I just wanted to clarify. I believe the total cost is 197, sorry. Yeah, so it's not the full one, to clarify. Sorry about that. I missed that. So development services. Again, we've got a breakdown with the director's office, which now includes our climate change coordinator, the building and protective services. And just to note, this only has, you'll see there's expenses in here. And so it's primarily due to bylaw because the rest of them are revenue neutral. And then there's planning as well. So again, with building, it's the building department, it's revenue neutral, and that means any revenues less expenses either dedicated or directed to or from that dedicated reserve. We do have the reallocation of the project coordinator from the CAO office to development services. The marketing and economic department has moved now to corporate and community strategy. Oh, geez. Oh, what happened here? Sorry, just 1 second here. Some other key projects is the housing action plan, the affordable housing policy update, an ongoing collaboration on housing projects with community partners. There's also the ongoing implementation of the CPP, height and density policy, and secondary plan for Huntsville North. With the building department, they're expecting, with an increase of user fees for 25 and 26, they're expecting revenues to be in line, or be projected to be in line with the 4-year average. They do have a one-time increase to service contracts of 15,000 for software implementation to review that software, and then an annual increase for that as well. There's also some impacts with the adoption of the proposed 2024 Ontario Building Code, and they also continue to implement the closure of older building permits. For short-term rentals, it's just wanted to note that there is an increase in licensing and administrative penalty revenue of around 20,000, and also there's 14,000 for service contracts for third-party host providers for the 24-hour hotline.
Okay, any questions on development services before we move on to legislative? Okay.
Okay, so next we have legislative services. We have the different areas within there. So legislative services, legal and agreements, information technology, and corporate information. So starting in 2025, the information technology department includes the new information technology technician position, which is partially funded by Lake of Bays. Also, so one item to note included in legislative services in 2026 is the election, which is funded from the election reserve. Funds are set aside every year to in anticipation of the election and then used in the year of the election. That's included in the first one. And there is a slight decrease in corporate information in 2025, and that's attributed to reallocation of the reserve contributions from corporate information to information technology. Some highlights for our IT, they're going to be completing an assessment of the options and prepare a plan for an integration engine and citizen portal for the town of Huntsville. Additional staff to support the ongoing operational requests and support upcoming projects and deliverables. Continued investment in staff through professional development and engagement with conferences and other networking and learning opportunities. Some highlights from GIS is integration of additional GIS staff and creation of new products for staff to use, and continued implementation of the new GIS dashboards and engines for use by staff and citizens, and planned expansion of the electronic workflows beginning bringing further time and accuracy efficiencies to departments and processes.
Any questions on that? Deputy Mayor Armour?
Please, Chair Moore, just to clarify, the information or IT tech job, that's the position that we voted on that's already in place. This is just adding those numbers to the budget, correct? Or is this an additional one?
That's the one that we've mentioned as one of the additional positions that have been proposed in this budget. So it is an additional staff member.
So, sorry, just to clarify, so the one that we voted on 6 months or so ago about having shared services with Lake of Bays, this is not the same position? This is another one again. So we're going to share two with Lake of Bays? Is that what we're talking?
Sorry, this is IT, not GIS. Is that?
Right, IT.
Yeah.
I'm with Deputy Mayor. I kind of put IT and GIS together, but it's you know, so it's a new position to be shared with Lake of Bays, but IT specific.
Yes.
Okay. Any other? I think Ian is here as well if we need Ian to answer any questions on the specific job. Ian, do you want to come down? Okay. You get to sit in this fancy seat over here. I'm sure a question's going to reach you on this, so you might as well come down. I think Councillor Stone?
No, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, if you want to just describe the position, percentage of use between and cost sharing.
Through you, Chair Morrison. So this is a new entry-level IT position that we're looking at. So that's taking the load of actually answering the calls, dealing with tickets and issues as they come into the help desk. It is expected to be shared at about 20%, same as the rest of the IT department out with Lake of Bays versus here. It's being brought forward as a request. We're finding through our tending and our reports, we're about 25% higher in tickets this year than the year previous, and we were almost 30% ahead of the year before that again. So that's just in straight up requests. And on top of that, we have a number of large initiatives and projects that are coming up. We are continuing to deploy new systems. In addition, to what we have out there. We're looking at another 26 into ops for the 2025, an unknown number going into fire. Each one of those adds a layer of work and a layer of effort to the team that we have to continue to support. And each of those is just applying pressure. The generalized accepted metrics are about 1 technician per 100 FTEs, of which we're well over that number for the organization, and adding more features in as we add in additional devices. So we're just hitting that break point right now. We can see it based on our trending from our ticketing environment as numbers go up. I can see as numbers get longer, delivery times take longer for us to do. And that's all just related to staffing numbers and what the team is being asked to do.
Thank you for that information, Ian. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you through you, Chair, to Ian, and I already asked him this question, but I guess everybody should know because I wanted to, the Asphodel Hall board ask that keeps coming in the minutes is the Wi-Fi for that hall, and I believe it's lumped into this budget, correct?
Through you, Chair Morrison, yes, it is.
That's good news. Anything else for legislative, IT, et cetera? I think we're good. Okay, so you guys can move on to your favorite part.
Thank you. So for financial services, it does show that, like in the finance section here, that does show that we're contributing here to the revenue. And that's because this division has a significant amount of revenues collected outside of property taxes. This includes interest and investment income and penalties on outstanding property tax accounts. So you will see that that's going up. Included in the 2025 budget is a contribution to the town's software replacement reserve, and that's anticipated in the replacement of the financial software project that was noted at the October committee meeting. So 300,000 has been included to build the reserve in 2025 and has been reduced in 2026 to 150,000. And in both 2025 and 26, there's additional interest income included. So we're anticipating that we still will have higher levels of interest income, even with the rates going down. And also new for 2025, we've included budgeted amounts for investment income, which are later transferred into capital reserves. So we just, now that we have a base for that, we've added that the in and the out, just so that council can see what kind of money is going into those reserves annually. And then we also have included in the budget plan to return to 50% of the lease revenues for the for the Centre Street lease into that reserves, into the Centre Street Environmental Reserve. And we're looking at doing that over a 5-year period. So that's been included in this budget. Perfect timing. And then to flip over to our other favorite topic, insurance, you'll see is increasing, and we have an increase of about 150,000 in 2025 that's being estimated, and another 60,000 in 2026. I did want to note that the 25 policy, as we're in the midst of getting that renewal done, but we're still have not yet finalized it. But there will be a significant increase in our policy or in our building premium, and that's due to the fact that a lot of our buildings were undervalued when we were sending that in. So now we've done a full assessment appraisal on those. So that will have an impact on our premium.
Any questions at that point so far? We're good? Okay. And just to clarify a bit on the environmental reserve, we're still going to be keeping our goal of how much we want to have in that reserve. It's just we know that we have a bit of time to get there. So our plan is over the 5 years, we'll get back to 50% of what the original annual allotment was. So still very committed to that reserve, and we're taking it out of general and putting it back in.
Sorry, and I should have noted that the next slide does just have a little snapshot of the projected environmental reserve balance. So if we are contributing $45,000 annually each year, that it will get up to that amount. So this would be the reserve contribution. Yeah. The next is our municipal accommodation tax reserve fund forecast. Oh, sorry, this is yours.
So this slide here just shows the estimated amount of the ending reserve balance for the municipal accommodation tax fund that the town collects. So you'll see towards 25 and 26, the amounts in the reserves will be low compared to our past history, and that's mainly due to the extensive projects that we have planned in the upcoming next few years. So we have those projects listed in the next two slides.
So I did just want to add as well that we do still maintain the $180,000 from the MAT going into the town's general revenues to offset the levy as well, as we did in the prior year.
Okay, so for the, I'll just list out the projects and feel free to stop me if you want to. So we have affordable housing, Algonquin Theater support, business retention and expansion programs, chamber business retention and expansion, chamber visitor information services, community financial request program, community improvement program, so the $180,000 general town revenues that Julia just mentioned, healthcare attraction, healthcare HHR attraction, Horticultural Society, Huntsville Job Fair, memberships, Muskoka Heritage Place support, Muskoka Small Business Center, NOSAM Welcome Event, Physician Incentive Program, Port Sydney Edison Chamber, Regional Workforce Strategy Implementation, Resident Attraction Strategy, Town Promotional Materials, Art in the Park, Project at Kent Park, Project Coordinator, Venture Muskoka website, Huntsville Historical Society walking tour, which is the user group request. And the last two items are the Parks and Trails signage and wayfinding signage for just over 1.5 million total in 2025.
Our team has been busy. Councillor Cluche?
Through you, Chair. The Parks and Trails signage, how much have we spent on that so far? Like this year, we have all the signs up, I think. Is there more to come? There's lots more? Okay, all right. I just didn't know the extent.
I should just note too that the Parks and Trails signage, that's the trailhead signage. That's mainly the trailhead signage, whereas the wayfinding is the different.
Dr. Freeman, want to expand on that?
Yeah, so thank you, Chair Morrison, through you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that Julia did a good job of doing that. So Parks and Trails signage is the trailheads and the signs along in parks and on trails. That's a separate project from the wayfinding with all the signs that have gone up. So they're both multi-year projects. So it's not likely that we're going to spend the full 300 on each of those projects in 2025. The unused portion will carry forward to future years. But just to note that those are two separate projects. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Frame. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison, and I'm not sure who to direct this question at, but in our wayfinding and signage, do we have a partnership with the Trans-Canada Trail for marking the trail, or is that our responsibility and theirs, or do we have any plan for it?
Good question.
Reva's got her hand up there.
So through you, Chair Morrison, thank you for the question, Councillor Fitzgerald. So I was actually just talking to our Economic Development Officer this morning about the Parks and Trails signage, and she mentioned that there is potential funding opportunities available because it is the Trans-Canada Trail. So I'm not entirely sure at this point, and I can look into it, whether there's a necessity for us to do it because it is the Trans-Canada Trail, like if there's a requirement for us to do it, but there is potentially grant funds available because of it.
Thanks, Ruby. I just know there's a lot of broken parts in the trail and it's hard to navigate. So I'm wondering if there is an opportunity for grant or funding or partnership that we can increase the signage and make people more aware, get more use. Thanks.
Yeah, it is a very misunderstood trail, the Great Trail. So I like that idea a lot. Councilor Remick?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just a quick question. The project coordinator, just refresh my memory on what that is.
Sorry, we've kind of called that two things. It's actually the climate change coordinator now.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Okay, I'll pass it back over to our finance team.
So we'll just go over the 2026 projects. So again, we have an amount set aside for affordable housing, Algonquin Theater support, business retention and expansion program, chamber business retention and expansion, chamber visitor information services, community financial request program, the community improvement program. We have 180,000 for general town revenues, healthcare attraction, horticultural society, Huntsville Job Fair, memberships, Muskoka Heritage Place support, Muskoka Small Business Center, NOSOM Welcome Event, Port Sydney Edison Chamber, Regional Workforce Strategy Implementation, Town Promotional Materials, Project Coordinator or Climate Change Coordinator, Venture Muskoka website, and Huntsville Historical Society walking tour, the user group request. That'll be an ongoing item for them. And the total is just over 500,000 for 2026.
Councilor Stone?
Thank you. So in both 25 and 26, you've got 60,000 for affordable housing. That hasn't been decided how it's going to be spent yet, has it? Affordable housing?
So that 60,000 is actually for the rebate on development charges and on the building fees.
Ah, okay. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilor Stone. Any other questions on that stuff? No? Okay, carry on.
So we have talked a lot about these, I think, already, but we just wanted to highlight some new capital staff recommendations that are being brought forward. These do need to be brought forward separately because they aren't existing, so we do need to have council approve these items. So the first one is the Don Low Arena ice floor covering. We have it in for the 2025 budget year at 250,000. Staff are recommending to proceed pending grant funding. So we're recommending that we only proceed with this project if we do get the grant funding. This would be a light duty removable floor to cover the ice to enable non-ice events and activities while keeping the ice in. And then any operating impacts would need to be recovered through the fees and charges that would be payable by the user. And it is this has been included also in the draft development charges study.
Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just a quick question to Director Bamel. Has anybody done a report on how this would be used and the impact it could have on our community by having it?
Through you, Chair Morrison. We did bring a report, I'm going to guess February, that outlined some of those costs, some of the usage that we would see. This is a light duty removable floor. So this is for concerts, expos, that kind of thing. This is not for any kind of sport. This is not for volleyball or basketball or any of those items. This is so that they can drive cars on there, they can put tables on there, whatever that might look like, to do those ice floor coverings. We did provide, thank you, Greg. We did provide some information about the potential, but the draw, it would be one of those projects that we would need to see what the draw is and then accommodate for the new customers that might come with it. And I'm going to let Greg jump in. He might have some better information and recall.
I think it was January, but it was the very end, so it could have been February for sure. It was right there. But through you, Chair Morrison, in that report, there was one event that would have been able to use the floor. Otherwise, every other event we've hosted on the Dawn floor can easily be moved over to the Jack. So with 195 days approximately of floor use on the Jack, there's quite a lot of availability on the Jack. But there would have been just one event. It would have been that Snoop Dogg concert. Needed the the ticket sale size. So that's the only event. Otherwise, everything else we can move to the Jack.
Councillor Stone?
Does it need to be identified here to circle back with HMATA? Like I said, they didn't dismiss the idea of funding it outright. They wanted some metrics to prove that it would actually bring tourists to town.
Through you, Chair Morrison, I believe I provided Kelly that information, and they came back with they would support applying for a grant, if I remember correctly, on the January.
Yeah, that's correct. The initial meeting was not enough information, and it was really hard to give a business case because not enough towns have one. So it's not even like Greg could call 5 towns and say, how much revenue do you gain? So I know at the end, HMATA would love to see it, but doesn't want to fund it necessarily, but would support us. If it was a partnership, maybe. Councillor Schumacher?
Through you, Chair Morrison. So the floor, though, that you guys are proposing isn't one where we could put it in when lacrosse wants to do that second term, correct? Because it's not a sport floor.
Through you, Chair Morrison, correct. It's almost an insulating floor that allowed trade shows, that sort of thing. If you want to play sports on top, you need a sport floor to go on top of that, which are even more expensive than the insulating floor, unfortunately.
Or a multi-purpose outdoor facility. Should I say Councillor Cloutier and then Councillor Clark.
Question direct, I don't know whether Greg or Simone can answer this. Kind of goes hand in hand. How has the rentals been for the summer ice? Or the year-round ice, sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Morrison, I appreciate the good news story. We were able to exceed our budget. Between 44 and 50,000, I think was our final, which far surpassed the cost of the arena. So it was a great success. The arena was extremely busy all year long. The weekends were actually the quieter time. Monday to Friday was extensive from morning till night, and then there were some openings on the weekends. But on those unfortunate rainy weekends we get once in a blue moon here, very rare, we were busy. And we had a lot of rentals come up because people were looking for stuff to do. But it was quite successful.
Well, that's great news here. Not only the financial success, but the success of seeing our local residents being active and using a taxpayer-funded facility. So great job on the staff, because it wasn't just putting the ice in, you guys had to go sell it. So well done. Any other questions on that, Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. And I totally understand why this item is included here. I guess I'm a little concerned, though, with including it in the budget that, we don't even know if we're going to get a grant. That's the hope that we do. But the problem is, if it's included in the draft, then we also have to include it in the next conversation tomorrow, which is the DCs, which also then affects that. So I'm not sure I don't know if there's a way around that, not including it in the draft, but that's a concern to me, because this today directly affects tomorrow's conversation.
Address that. How do you want to address it?
Well, I don't want to answer it, but I want to just add to that you're right. If we keep it in the budget, it affects the budget, right? Like the bottom line is that if we keep this $250,000 in it, it's going to affect the budget. Even if we get a grant or if we get HMATA funding, it's still going to affect the budget. And that goes to a lot of the other items, or some of the other items that are in this budget as well, that if we don't apply for like the hot tub or, the change rooms we've already looked at, but it still affects the bottom line, right? So why are we keeping it in here if we don't have clear numbers on how it will benefit? If we don't have that information, we can't make a decision whether or not to keep it in or not to keep it in. So until we have, I think, more definite numbers that this could possibly generate revenue, which I think it would, but we don't have those numbers. So how can we make a decision today? So my bet would be, or my say would be, not to have this in here, because it's going to affect the bottom line.
Well, the only trick to that is if it's not in there, we can't apply for grants, right? And if we keep it as an item that we will only, and that's the conversation tomorrow about DCs, if we're only going to do it with a grant, then it doesn't probably need to be in the DC study, right? And it's not necessarily a growth item, but we can discuss that. But I think having it in there, it shouldn't affect the finances of the town, except for we do have to think about storage, potentially a forklift, and other things that go with it, right? And labor, yeah. Councillor Schumer.
Thank you, through you, Chair Morrison. I mean, yeah, I like the idea, but is it something that we look at in 2025, or is this something we get some feedback on, and maybe this is because we're doing 2 years, it might have to go off to 2027?
And Director McKenzie?
I was going to say that could be a recommendation that council could make, is to defer it to 2027 to give us more time.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Keep a list of these items, and then if you want to put it on the table that we defer, remove, whatever else, that's something we can do when we get to that point. It's great. Okay, continuing on.
The next item we have is being proposed for the 2027 budget year. It's to renovate the Dawn Arena to be more sledge hockey accessible. Construction would result in temporary arena closure and impact service levels. The retrofit would also require seating to be removed. So staff are recommending including in the 2027 capital budget, and it also including another impact is the number of capital projects planned for 2025 at the moment.
Any questions on that? Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I love the idea of having the sledge hockey availability in arena. I just not really sure. $200,000 ticket, that's pretty expensive, eh?
I share your concern, Councillor Schumacher.
No, I mean, yeah, I like it 2027. I don't know with the push of 2025 and accessibility ODA, whether there's an opportunity maybe to get more grants and things, so then it might become something that is feasible or able for us to do.
Yeah, and I don't know if that'd be Director Babineau who would speak when it says the loss of seating. Is it the seating to make the hallway wider, or is it?
Through you, Chair. They would be permanently removed. There would be seating over where we'd have to expand the sledge hockey space to get the box, to get in and out. So those seats would not return after the renovation. So, and what our 25 budget does not include in it is that closing of the arena during this renovation. And this is an estimate price, so that we could move forward with a full report back on what the costs were, what the timeline would look like. There's a lot more detail to come with this one, but a little, now that we've done this, we're doing a 2-year budget. Our recommendation was that we might push it to 27, that way it still stays on the capital plan, and that you might give us direction to be able to bring those reports and those better information back to you, so that we could plan for 27 budget submission, if that makes sense.
I guess just to follow, where are the seats exactly? I'm trying to picture where it's obviously all on the upper floor.
So it would be where the current team seats are, but it would remove everything probably right up to the track in that section. So I don't know how many we don't know. That's part of the process of finding out how much space do we need, how are they going to get in there, does it remove those storage rooms or those rooms from below? There's so much.
So is
there's
that
so many layers to
the
this
whole area
one.
behind the bench that goes up towards the media booth?
Yes,
Like that
exactly.
whole section would be gone?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I'd have to see the plan. I can't.
And we don't really have a plan. That's just a conversation that we've had.
Yeah, because Ravenhurst is sledge hockey friendly and they don't have that issue. You know, like
Right, but it was built to accommodate in, and so we just don't know what that engineer drawings would look like to come back.
Okay.
That program right now is offered in Gravenhurst, but it wasn't included in the build for the new Bracebridge
yeah.
Arena.
Okay, I'm just having trouble getting my head around the need to remove all those seats. They have such a wide walkway there, and yeah. That means you have to be busting down all the concrete and just, yeah, it's a big deal. Okay. Any other questions on that? CEO Corey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize, Councillor Fitzgerald. Just if Director Babineau just can remind committee, this is an ask through the Accessibility Advisory Committee, correct? And it's not a request driven by community users, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to accept the staff recommendation to move it to 2027.
I would concur. So it's, when we bring our amendments, let's make that one of them. Any other questions on that? All right, keep going.
Sorry, I should note for that one is included in the 2027 forecast. It isn't included right now in the 2025, 26. So we don't need a recommendation if council aren't looking to change
Okay.
that.
And it's in the forecast, but we're not locking it into the budget because that'd be the next term of council.
Yeah, it's not in the 25 or 26 budget.
But it would be in the 27 budget if we're deferring it.
We just have a 5-year forecast for capital, so it isn't, we are showing it in year 3. So
Okay.
that's not locking it down for council.
Okay, I'm just saying the concern would be that the next term of council, they have a $200,000 budget item added already without their input.
No, they'd have to come back and
Okay.
do that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, should be okay.
Through you, Councillor Morrison, just to follow up, it's also because with the accessibility plan, it's considered a barrier. So we keep it on the ongoing option. We understand that maybe council doesn't have the ability to fund it, but we don't want to lose it because it's considered, from an accessibility standpoint, a barrier to the community for people to access.
Right, good to know. And then we can also dig into more about the seating, because I think if I can look at the arena now with all those seats gone, it would have a massive impact on even the aesthetics of the arena. And that's something I'd be concerned about. Councilor Cluche?
Through you, and then I think the junior room would be gone too then, so. Yeah.
Anyway, more to discuss on that. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Not to drag this on, but has the Jack been looked at as an alternative to the Dawn?
Through you, Chair Morrison. At this point, we just haven't done that homework, so we're gonna, if we get that direction and that's the plan, then we can go back and do the work to be able to bring that forward for 27 or 28 or whatever we're doing that. We haven't invested the time because we haven't been, we wanted to have this conversation. This is where it needed to get some direction for us to be able to move forward. So no, we haven't, and we probably could look at the Jack. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think any hockey player, whether you're sledge hockey or any other type of hockey player, I think you always would prefer to play on the smaller rink. So I think having that look on the Jack would probably be a benefit.
Well, yeah, just to follow up, I mean, this is coming from members who are on the committee that were there in 2010 when the new arena was built and the ask was at that time, and then it didn't happen. So I don't think they necessarily care one side or the other, as long as the ability to do it comes to fruition, because the asks seem to be ignored at the time.
Thank you for that clarification as well. Okay, moving on.
Okay. Thank you. So the next one is the library accessibility ramp at Minerva and Center Street entrance. So at the Minerva and Center Street corner of the library building, there are 2 doors that exit the building. One is an emergency exit and the other is an entrance exit from the Friends multi-purpose room. So the Friends room is rented after library hours, and renters use the secure entrance to go in and out of that building or room. So having an accessibility ramp will ensure that those with accessibility needs can easily access the rental space after hours, as well as provide another safe, accessible exit in the event that the building has to be evacuated. It should be noted that this is not a requirement of the Accessibility Act. However, it does improve access to that entrance. Sorry, I should just note too that staff are recommending to proceeding this only with grant funding. Sorry, I guess when we talk about grants, if we do apply for a grant, most grants are not for 100% ever. So we would always have to come back and discuss it with council to see how they wanted to proceed and fund the remainder of it. I should note that we've talked a lot about a bunch of different accessibility grants, and that we have to be selective on, we can't apply for all of them for every single project. So it is important that if council does have priority projects, that we know what those are so that we can focus on those ones.
Councilor Morrison. Thank you. If I may just ask, for this particular ramp, so when there's a meeting that's after hours, the front doors are locked, and actually I see we have David still here, but is there no access through the front doors off at, like after 6 p.m. in the library? So if somebody wanted to leave, if they were in a wheelchair, could they not leave through the front doors? Is that just not a? Do we have to?
No, they can. It just provides a better access, and the way the panels are set up is that we have had the odd time where, because the front set of doors have to be coated with a different panel and that kind of thing. The library being disarmed basically because of forgotten, that kind of thing. And in an emergency, that those front doors still can be used as an exit anyway. So yes, and we did use the annex, which is now the medical hub, as mostly for our after hours bookings, which was accessible, and to sort of better accommodate that as well.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions on that? Okay.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
So this next item, we spoke about it a bit earlier. It's the Wasiosa Lake access. So there's a little picture, so you can see. So this project is being proposed at 30,500 and proposed to happen in 2025, and it's to provide better access to Wasiosa Lake. And we mentioned a bit earlier that the stairs and railing did exist in prior years, but were removed. So we have brought this forward as a new request because it's a new addition, even though it was a prior existing item.
Okay, to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I was out with Tina and Randy. We had a look at this. One of our mandates is to get people to the waterfront, get them out on the water. Accessibility. So I don't think an option for us to removing the dock is a positive one with all the work that we've done and how we're trying to get people to access the water. So for me, this is something that I think we should do because it's so steep and we've created a liability issue there, and we want to get people out to the dock and swimming and on the water. So I fully support this.
I agree. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Just a quick question to whoever wants to answer it. Does this fall under tourism, and then can we use any MAC dollars for this?
I think it's mostly locals using it other than the camp, but.
Thank you. Are we using wood or are we using metal to make the stairs or railings?
That was
Do you know?
discussed, looking at even potential Muskoka stone and whatnot.
yeah.
So I think that's still, Tina is still to determine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I can come
thank you.
back with some plans, yeah. Yep. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Morrison. A couple things. First, does it affect accessibility? Do we have to put a ramp in? And second of all, is the camp willing to put any money towards it if they're using this all the time? I'm just curious. If it's new construction, does it fall under?
No, it's the same as with the Echo Bay piece that we had talked about. We're not going to go in and blast and make sure that, it is what it is. Due to natural environment, I mean, we can't make it accessible as long as we do facilitate and promote the areas that are accessible for people to be able to have access to water. We can't make this accessible, and I know it is for 2025, but again, under the, public access to public spaces, as long as we do have alternatives and places for people to go, it would be nice, but because of the features of it and the environment, we can't force it to be accessible.
Good to know. And knowing that the camp is Camp Toronto being a not-for-profit, I don't think they would put some money in it. It doesn't mean we can't ask, Anything else?
Okay, so the next couple of items are for the cemeteries. So the first is the Hutchison Columbarium interlock. So that's in there for the 2025 budget year, and that's to be funded from the Cemetery Capital Reserve. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Stone?
So as much as I love the look of this, inevitably, we know with the freeze and thaw, it's going to heave and we're going to have to redo it every year. So I'm wondering if there's other options that we should look at, but it does look nice the first year it's in.
Director Bissonnette, do you want to speak to the difference or how long it can last on that walkway?
Through you, Chair. I think it would
I don't think the frost heave would affect us really. We could put geotextile down if we had to underneath it, just to make sure it doesn't.
Thank you, Randy. Any other questions? Okay.
This brings us to our next one, and this is the Medill Church Cemetery interlocking brick. So that's in 2025, and that's 15,000 to be funded from the Cemetery Capital Reserve.
Councillor Cluche.
For the work at the Medill, have we talked with the people that have redone the church there? Like maybe coordinate with them as far as what to put down there? I don't know, nobody's around. But just, you know, because they've done all that work on the church, you want to make it blend in, right? You don't want something, you want something to match or whatever, I don't know. Maybe they just want gravel.
Tina's coming down again.
Through you, Chair Morrison. I'd be happy to talk to the church. It's not a big deal. Just to keep in mind to council, this columbarium that is at Medill Church was a donation to the town about 3 years ago. A family donated it. So I put it in as a new ask, thinking that the town could put a nice interlocking stone there. So it would look not like it's just sitting on grass. But by all means, I can reach out to the church.
Thank you, Tina. Good question. And back over to you guys.
Oh, sorry.
The next item we have is a portable meeting system for Partners Hall to be funded from the Council Chamber Expansion Reserve, 25,000 planned for 2025. Staff have applied for a grant for this, and we're waiting for a decision. It's to improve audio, microphone, and streaming for accessibility meetings, and it's portable. It will be a portable meeting in a box that's expected to be able to be used at other town facilities. It does not include specifically the purchase of cameras. The existing cameras that the town has, some existing cameras we would use in that setup that would be sufficient for meetings at Partners Hall and similar venues, but not for the theater or Summit Center meetings, just to be clear.
Councillor Schumacher.
The accessibility committee would thank you for that. And maybe we could go back to Port City Hall occasionally.
I believe this is the last one. It's the Hutchison Cemetery open additional space. And so this is for the 2026 budget year. So it's adding $20,000 from the cemetery reserve. And this is just for the initial preparation. So once this work got underway, a report would come forward on the full project costing to open up additional space at that location. Oh, I lied. There's one more.
There's a couple more. So this next one is to expand the parking lot at Avery Beach, 74,500 requested in 2026 to be funded from the Parkland Reserve. It's to clear and dig out organic materials, prep and supply, pave, line, those type of items to enhance the area for everyone using the park. Oh.
Councillor Rebeck.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just to clarify, I think we talked about this before, but so when you go over the railway tracks, the one on the parking lot on the left-hand side is already done. Are we talking about the right-hand side? Tina?
Come on back down.
Okay, through you, Chair Morrison. So if you're looking at the picture where you see all the grass right there and the trees, so you are correct. Going over top of the train tracks, you're going to go left. We already have parking spots there that are NIDOC reserves. But in the green spot there, we're hoping to open that more up to make more parking there. Push it through the trees, yeah. So it'll be in line with the CN rail.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I'm just curious, how many spaces are you looking at creating?
I'm looking, well, thanks. I'm looking to put at least maybe 15 to 20 and hoping. Depends on where the CN rail lets us.
That's a big improvement. That's great. Any other questions on that one? All right. Thanks again. You sure you want to go all the way to the top?
She should be safe now. I believe this is the last one. The council chambers addition for meetings. So this is another 5,000 in 2025 to be funded from the council chambers expansion reserve. And this would be for a new TV outside the council chamber door, a new TV in overflow area, and 4 security cameras in council chambers and overflow area.
Bob, Councillor Stone?
So yes, for when we have overflow on planning, like we have in the recent past, people outside the door had difficulty seeing what's happening, and the cameras will allow us to see who's still waiting outside and who might need to come in. So this is great, including the meeting in a box that Partners Hall could have.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Just a question about seating. Is there any plans to put any type of portable seating in that area? If we're going to have the overflow go out there, are they all going to stand?
Through you, Chair Morrison, I'd have to double check with the prevention department, but there could be a problem with fire. I'm sorry, Councillor.
That's valid, because could be a tight space around the elevators and everything else, yeah. Councillor Schumacher?
Through you, Chair Morrison. No, I think this is a great idea, but yeah, to the seating, I mean, at the end of the day, as people have alluded to, and I know it's hard to do the theater, but that is the alternative if we really have a large meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we know, we can try to plan ahead, right? Any other comments on that? Seeing none, I'll pass it over.
Sorry, I do just want to clarify, and I don't know if IT would like to clarify too, but just with that meeting in a box, I just want to clarify that doesn't include cameras. So you couldn't just take that box and have a full scale meeting in a different location. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I know each year we usually show where Huntsville's tax rate sits in comparison to other municipalities in Ontario. This is somewhat challenging at this time, as many municipalities have not yet filed their FIR, which is their financial information return for 2023. And many have had significant increases in 24. So the data even available for 23 may not be representative of the current rates that are out there across Ontario. However, in comparison with our closest neighbors, we can see that in 2024, Huntsville was the lowest tax rate between the 3 towns in Muskoka. And without having any additional increase for Gravenhurst or Gravenhurst or Bracebridge, you will see that Huntsville's 2025 rate would still be lower than both Gravenhurst and Bracebridge. And in 2026, and in 26, the rate would still be lower than the rate played in Bracebridge in 24. So this is the 2024 rates that we're showing here. So you can see on the right-hand side, the 2025 would still be less than Gravenhurst, and the 26 would be still less than Bracebridge in 24. So it is quite competitive amongst our neighbors.
Okay. I'm going to pass off to Councillor Cloutier quickly for a comment.
For you, Chair, just a quick question to Bob. Fairburn, when is that cost overruns and stuff like that going to affect us? This year, next year?
The cost overrun for Fairburn?
Yes.
That's not going to affect us.
It isn't? Okay.
No.
The district, I mean, but when, you know, the district tax is going to go up, it's not going to affect us right on our levy, but overall, when do you think we're going to?
I think it's all included, and we're not going to see a specific bump because of that.
Okay, all right.
No. And Fairburn's going to be up and running and doors open spring 2026.
Good, thank you.
Very exciting. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. I just want to give a special thanks to the senior leadership team and the council members that were on the committee, and to you too. Very clear, very easy to understand, and I like the fact that we came in with the parameters we asked you to. It's job well done. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay. At this time, this concludes the presentation of the 2025 and 26 budget. Again, we're here to answer any questions regarding that council has and suggestions for any changes. And if there are changes, this can be brought forward in an amendment to the main motion. If committee wants to approve this budget as presented or with any amendments, the budget could be brought forward to the regular council meeting on November 25th, where the budget could be considered for adoption at that time.
So we are still meeting tomorrow, right? So what I'll do at this point, I'll read a motion to postpone until tomorrow. And then any ideas, any comments, any questions, tomorrow morning will be the time to do it. And we'll try to get everything answered so that we can move forward and decide if we have to move on to the 25th meeting instead. So with that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that the motion be postponed until 9 a.m. on November 12th, 2024. Any questions on that? All in favor? Okay, and I'll pass it to Deputy Mayor Armour to finish off the meeting.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Great meeting. We made a lot of progress. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I do have a motion that's moved by Councillor Renwick and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. It's recommended that we adjourn to 9 a.m. November the 12th, 2024 in Huntsville Municipal Council Chambers. Questions? All those in favor? And that carries.